Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is the brother of Akeno in High School DxD. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Raptor Fanfiction and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Story start. Naruto Uzumaki stood proudly in defense of his friend, using his own body as a shield to protect somebody that he respected. He had his arms raised out, defending a single person from a group of people who were glaring at him. Naruto looked completely serious as he stared at his friends, a fire in his eyes. Though he wasn't wearing much, he was a boy of about 16 years old, standing at around 5 feet 5 inches in height, with sunny blonde hair. His hair was slightly in front of his eyes, thanks to him not wearing his usual headband to keep it in check. He had bright blue eyes, and a more rounded face at the chin. He was well built for muscle, not having even a single ounce of fat on his highly trained body. He was all visible muscle, that muscle being visible thanks to the fact that other than a single towel wrapped around his waist, he was naked. Nearly all of his peach skin on display. Wait a minute! Bushy brows isn't that kind of guy. He's our ally. If he said he wasn't, then he wasn't. Believe him, Naruto shouted out loudly, ashamed of his friends standing in front of him. His shame in them was audible in his voice, and the disappointment in his eyes spoke a clear message to all of them. They couldn't look him in the eyes without feeling shame in their own actions. The women of the group, Ino, Tenten, Sakura, and Hinata had accused Rock Lee, the man on the ground behind Naruto, of peeping on them in the changing room. In his fright, Lee had run from the women. The men, Kiba, Niji, Shino, Shikamaru, and Choji had believed that Lee had peeped when he ran away from the girls as well. Only Naruto believed that Lee was innocent, having looked into his eyes and seen that he had genuinely not done anything wrong. Naruto-kun Lee was shocked at Naruto defending him, wide-eyed at the one person out of everyone who believed him. Naruto turned around and smiled at Lee. "Make your hearts bigger," Naruto said to the group, locking eyes with Lee to show him that he truly believed that he was innocent in all of this. Everyone looked at Naruto's but the back of his towel. There was a pink bra stuck to the towel, with a size so small that it could only belong to the women in the group with the smallest chest. Sakura was not pleased. The smallest underwear on his waist that must belong to Shino pointed out, and Sakura's visible rage only got 10 times worse than it was. She stalked towards Naruto, with Naruto not taking notice of her until she was mere feet away from her. Even then, Naruto had yet to notice her anger at him. He could only blink. "You underwear thief, huh?" Naruto let out a statement of shock. He didn't steal any underwear, to his knowledge. All he had been doing when this entire mess started was move to a spot where he could peep on the women in the bath. Yes, he had been acting like a pervert, but he hadn't stolen any underwear. Heck, he didn't even get the chance to peep on them, seeing as Lee had interrupted it by falling through the ceiling and destroying the women's changing room. Naruto looked at his own waist where others were looking. His face went blank. That was Sakura's bra, a size that only Sakura amongst the girls had. Naruto plucked it off himself, before he paled. "OSH, you just lost all credibility, Naruto," Sakura shouted as she focused chakra into her fist. A green layer of energy focused at the tip of it. She focused it more as she pulled her fist back, and she took a step towards Naruto. Naruto raised his arms to try and calm the situation with words, attempting to save himself from this painful situation. It was too late. Sakura's fist slammed right into his face with all of her might. She unleashed all of her pent-up and focused medical chakra, with the power of her fists increasing explosively. Naruto went flying up through the air, going higher and further away from the group as he was knocked out by the sucker punch to his face. "He is out of sight," Niji pointed out when he turned on his Byakugan and looked to see that Naruto had already escaped the range of his eyes. Sakura had hit Naruto hard enough to send him so far away that even Niji could not longer see where he went. Sakura paled. She didn't mean to hit him that hard. Another location. The limited Tsukuyami is nearly complete. This orb separates the time-space of dream and reality. With it, we will be able to capture the Nine Tails. A masked man spoke to nothing. He wore a large cloak over most of his body that was colored black, with red clouds on it. He had short black hair, and his face was covered by an orange spiral mask. He had his hand raised up to show a well-sized glass orb in his palm. He had already created a different world inside of the sphere, a pocket dimension in which he could send his target, and allow them to witness a drunken world of dreams. Then he could capture Naruto, and extract the Nine Tails from him. After that, he could launch the real infinite Tsukuyami on the world, and send it to the world where there was no war, and everyone had their own personal dream come to life. What was that? He could see something flying towards him, at a very high speed. The man squinted his eye and looked at it, but all he saw was a mop of blonde hair and shoulders. He raised an eyebrow under his mask. The person was getting closer to him, and his eyes widened. It was Naruto. He raised his hand to grab Naruto as he was passing, and he couldn't help but grin under his mask. He wasn't even going to need the orb. A passed-out Naruto was flying right at him. The man dropped the orb. As Naruto was getting closer to him, he wasn't going to need it. He would use his Kamui, his own space-time ninjutsu, to suck up Naruto and store him for later until he could get back to the statue. The orb fell lower to the ground, and shattered the exact same second that he himself touched Naruto and tried to absorb him. The orb breaking unleashed a small wave of energy that extended around where the orb had been, with a dark spot of chakra being in the middle. The Kamui and limited Tsukuyomi's space-time abilities mashed, and the man noticed just a moment too late as a spiral vortex appeared between Naruto and where the orb shattered. The fabric between dimensions shattered for a brief moment, using the dream world and the real world. The line between the two, for a second, was completely blurred as Naruto was absorbed into the rift. Before the man could send Naruto away, Naruto was sucked into the vortex, and the man's eye widened. No! Naruto was gone! He got down on his knees, the vortex already gone, and the shattered remains of the orb, meaning that Naruto had been sent to a world that was not one that he himself created. With the orb gone, that meant that whatever world he had been sent to was not a world of dreams like he had been trying to send him to. The man punched the ground in irritation, angered by the freak turn of events. Where did he send Naruto? In a different dimension. A vortex opened up, and in a split second Naruto dropped out of it and started to fall from the sky towards the ground below, still very much knocked out cold from the entire thing, and this time he was dropping from miles up in the air. No big deal, his body was strong enough to survive this kind of punishment without issue. He soared towards the ground. Closer and closer to the ground he fell, until after a few minutes he crashed onto a park. Thankfully, there was only a single person around to see what had happened, and see the stranger who had fallen from the sky and landed in the park's water fountain, utterly destroying it with his body. His body making a crater nearly 30 wide, with rocks and water scattered all around the area around the crater. A young girl stared at the crater, and the possibly dead person inside of it with surprised/dull eyes at the weirdness that just appeared. Even for her, she had never encountered a person who fell out of the sky. She was a young girl of about 15 years old, standing at a height of about 4 feet 6 inches with striking white hair that was kept moderate in length, with side bangs going past her shoulders. She had very light-colored skin, and almost cat-like yellow eyes. She had a very petite figure, a thin waist, with very small breasts, but for her short height she had longer legs with full thighs and a rather well-formed butt. She wore a white striped shirt with a black tie, and a corset around her waist, with a very short violet skirt that barely went down past her butt. Most of her legs were on display, with her black socks going to below her knees. On the ground in front of her was a small white cat. Koneko Tuja was out walking her familiar Shiro. She did this on occasion as a reward for when the cat was able to get her a good client. The park was close to the school, so she never really worried about it. She looked into the crater. She was pretty sure he was dead. She could smell his human scent, and no human could survive a fall from the sky like that. Not even a human with a sacred gear could survive a fall from that height. The cloud he had fallen out of visibly had a hole in it from his body. He would have to have extreme superhuman durability to even have a hope of surviving that kind of fall. Ow 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 ow, damn Sakura-chan, Naruto said as he started to sit up, smashing into the ground having woken him up. His body was beaten and bruised, with several cuts all over him. Thankfully his towel had stayed on his waist, through some complete miracle of nature. Koneko just stared at him with wide eyes. The fuck? Okay, so maybe some humans can survive that drop. I can already sense that warm chakra inside it? Koneko thought with a surprised look appearing on her face. The boy in the crater, who was dusting himself off without even noticing her, had chakra inside of him. Yet, his chakra was different than her chakra. His was more potent, more powerful, and he had an ungodly large amount of it inside of him. His chakra was warm, bright, sunny, and comforting. It was huge in nature, and had the qualities of somebody who had accepted everything about himself. Crack. Ah. That is going to leave a big bruise, Naruto said as he turned his head and tried to look at his back. He had a huge bruise on it, though the bruise was slowly shrinking in size. Naruto grunted and started to pop his body, trying to loosen up and relax himself from his ordeal. Naruto raised an eyebrow a moment later. Something was off about this place. For one, as a sage, Naruto could see natural energy and sense it pretty easily. The natural energy around this area was different than anything he had seen or sensed. It was natural energy, yes, but at the same time it wasn't the type that he had seen where he had come from. Naruto looked around, before he noticed Koneko. Naruto smiled and started to run towards her. Koneko tensed up unconsciously, and she sent her familiar back where it came from. If a battle was going to go down, she didn't want the little kitten getting hurt. She clenched her fist, and she prepared herself to punch him in the balls and run if needed. If he goes for an attack, I'll knock his wow. Koneko thought with wide eyes. He was good looking. His body was sculpted to perfection. It was visibly hard from some kind of extreme training. He had abs, pecs, and arms that looked like he could kill a person with ease. His body was glistening with the water from the fountain that he destroyed. His hair was soaking wet, matted down to his head, and water was dripping off of those muscles. Just damn. Koneko didn't drop her guard or anything. This guy was clearly not normal or anything, but she was still a 15-year-old, hormonal girl. She found boys attractive, and some girls though she wasn't sexually interested in them. She would ruin his pretty face if he was hostile with her. Hey, could you tell me where I am? I think my friend punched me a little too hard. How far away is Konohagakure? Naruto asked as he looked around. He could go into sage mode and find out for himself, but he felt it would be better just to ask. Konoha was the most powerful of the 5 great nations for a reason. Everyone in the elemental nations could tell you where to find Konoha. For a hidden village, it was not a well-kept secret. Koneko blinked. Your friend punched you far enough to send you out of your village? Konohagakure? Koneko asked with a tilted head. Sounded like a shitty friend to her. Not to mention she had never heard of some place called Konohagakure before. It was clearly a Japanese name, and Japan was one of the smallest nations on the entire planet. A village like that would not be a secret to her, who had been in Japan with the Japanette for a while. Her master was literally obsessed with the culture, and she had never mentioned a village of that name before. Yeah, Sakura-chan has a bit of a temper. She punches really hard though. The fuck is that? Naruto asked as he looked a large shadow that appeared over himself and Koneko. Kaneko's eyes widened when she smelled something that she was familiar with. She turned her head as fast as possible, but it was too late. There was a stray devil behind her, most likely having been attracted to Naruto's chakra. It was a damn magnet for power-hungry fools. Koneko didn't have enough time to react. She barely had enough time to register what was standing behind her. It was a huge stray devil, easily over 15 feet tall. She had the lower body of a giant scorpion, mixed with a horse. It had the tail and torso of the scorpion, but instead of scorpion legs, it had 8 horse legs instead. On the front of the stomach was a large mouth, with many fangs inside of it, shining with saliva. The top half was that of a red-skinned woman, with slightly twisted facial features so that she had a huge grin with sharp teeth. The scorpion's stinger was inches away from her skin. She wasn't fast. She didn't have the speed to escape that kind of attack at such a close range. Naruto grabbed Koneko just in time and jumped back to the other side of the crater, before Koneko could even blink. Naruto was surprised, but his eyes were sparkling when he saw such a weird enemy. That is so disgusting. You have some pretty awesome bugs here. Reminds me of my time in the forest of death. Giant centipedes over 100 feet tall, Naruto said with sparkling eyes. Even though this thing was ugly as sin, it wasn't the first Gant animal that Naruto had fought. He had eaten a 15-foot fish with Jiraiya before, and fought against many giant animals in his life. This was no different than that. Well, the others didn't have weird human upper bodies. He is fast, Koneko thought, when she realized he had cleared a good 50-foot clearing in less than the amount of time that she could respond to him. He had already let go of her, and was getting ready for a fight. She blinked, before she nodded her head. Okay, he saved my life. I guess he isn't really going to attack me, Koneko thought, though not all of her suspicions were totally gone. It was still strange for a human without the smell of a sacred gear to have these kinds of powers, even if he had chakra. Do you know where Konohagakure is from here? Naruto called out to the stray devil, and Koneko's sweat dropped. He was either an idiot, used to this kind of stuff, or he had no idea what a stray devil was. Possibly all three. She could take this chance to run away. He was fast and could no doubt run away when he realized how much trouble this thing was for him. He was human, durable and fast or not. That stinger was sharp and would go through him. Are you retarded? I'm going to eat you? The stray devil spoke with her eyes showed bloodlust, annoyance, and hunger for his body. Naruto shivered at that, before he waved his hand at her. Been there, done that. It was a giant snake, and I was not good for its stomach. Anyway, is Konoha north, south, east, or west of here? I can find it on my own if you tell me that. Naruto tried to reason with the creature of darkness. He didn't want to fight if he didn't have to. He really didn't. Koneko was just shocked at his attitude towards this. Okay, so he had no idea what a stray devil was. Good to know. I think you should run, Koneko started, before Naruto jumped into the air and crossed his fingers with a grin on his face. Well shit, that is so awesome. Hey, I think you should run. I'll take care of this. Naruto called out to Koneko, and she blinked. That was what she was about to say to him moments ago. He clearly wasn't with the church, or any of the factions, if he didn't know what a stray devil was. Even devils killed stray devils on sight. He smells human, but these abilities are so inhuman my eyes can barely even keep up with him, Koneko thought when she noticed that it was harder for her to track his movements. That being thought, she did realize that he had saved her life before she could blink. Listen, if you promise not to eat people anymore, we don't have to fight. I really don't want to have to hurt you, Naruto said as he landed on the ground, and he started to close the distance, dodging the lasers from this creature. She was fondling her titties to aim for him, which would have been awesome, if she wasn't trying to kill him. His life was more important than his interest in women right now. Made out of rock. She had been a rook before she turned into a stray devil. There was little chance of this little human hurting her. Naruto's eyebrow twitched when he realized that she was mocking him, and his own temper started to get riled up. He hated being underestimated. Fuck not hurting you. I'm going to beat your ass black and blue, Naruto shouted out as he jumped towards the woman and slugged her in the jaw. The stone armor that was her skin cracked under the pressure from his punch. While Naruto may not have Sakura's unnatural super strength, he could still easily break through stone, and send people flying with his own punches, no problem. Putting a crater in the ground, or beating the shit out of this woman was something well within his abilities. Naruto raised his other hand, and when she turned her face back towards him, this time with a shocked expression that her face had been cracked. Naruto slugged her in the face and shattered her red skin, revealing soft white skin underneath. Naruto's foot touched her body and he stood on top of her mouth, before he slugged her in her soft cheek. She was stunned from the blow. Naruto slammed his forehead into her forehead, completely shattering her armor, before he punched her in the face. Her body collapsed as she was knocked out cold, and Naruto landed on the ground on his feet, before he paused. Naruto cradled his fists together with a pained expression. Okay, punching her had hurt more than a little. He is strong? Koneko whispered, unsure of what to make of this entire situation that she was finding herself in. Idiot blonde falls from sky check. Idiot blonde attracts stray devil to his chakra check. Idiot blonde beats shit out of stray devil check. Crap, I forgot to see if she knew where Konoha was. Hey, wake up! Naruto shouted as he went over to the stray devil and started to slap her cheeks to wake her up. Hey, don't die on me, Naruto told her as he started to slap her face a little harder. She was startled awake by his hitting, and looked in shock to see she was still alive. She would have thought she would have been killed. I'm alive? She asked as she looked up at Naruto. Hey, do you know where Konoha is? Naruto shouted when she lurched forward and snapped her jaws down on his shoulder. Her teeth became embedded in his flesh, and Naruto elbowed her in the temple. She gasped in pain and let go, while Naruto grabbed her by the throat and held her at arm's length, his bleeding shoulder starting to steam a little at the edges of the wound as it sealed itself up. No, bad weird lady, if you do that again, I will have to kill you. Don't make me kill you. I really don't want to hurt you. Naruto told her, and Koneko had no clue what she was watching. No wonder his chakra was so warm and bright. He was a truly kind, if a bit violent, person who didn't want to kill even his enemies who tried to kill him. It was like he was the exact opposite of a devil, but at the same time he was clearly no angel either. He was a truly one-of-a-kind human. He also had an amazing butt. His towel had flipped up. Koneko looked away, her cheeks a little red at the sight of such a well-toned ass. Bite me, human! I'll eat your soul. The stray devil shouted at Naruto with rage at her second loss in a row in her eyes. Her hate for Naruto was clear, and Naruto looked sadly at those eyes, before he raised his fist up. He lowered his fist moments later and sighed, before slammed his head into her head. She was knocked out again, and Naruto stood up, fixing his towel as he did so. He looked sadly at her knocked out form, before he weighed his options. Kill her, or don't kill her. He didn't have his gear with him, so he couldn't really capture her, and he knew nothing about the surrounding area. He had looked into her eyes, and he saw her soul when he did that. In that brief moment when he fought her, he had been able to see her heart. It was like she had no heart at all. Her heart was filled with nothing but the deepest of darkness. Ra! Naruto shouted out as he slammed his fist down onto the back of her neck, and her spine snapped like a twig when he landed and hit. She let out one last breath, before her life slipped away from her body. The power started to leave her body with her death, and blue energy escaped her, her body shrinking down and becoming more human. Her upper body's rock armor shattered, leaving the humanoid torso the same, and her lower body vanished to reveal human legs. She was still very much dead though. Naruto picked her up and looked around for a good spot to bury her in. She still deserved a proper burial, even if she was his enemy who tried to kill and eat him. Naruto's shoulder was finished healing, as was the rest of his body from earlier for that matter. Koneko looked at him, surprised that she didn't have to do anything that fight. She was surprised by his freaky healing factor, and even more how he was going towards the crater and placing her gently in one of the holes in the ground. He started to move some dirty to cover her body, before he clapped his hands together and offered a prayer for her. Nobody is this kind to their enemies who try to kill them, Koneko thought as she stared at this strange boy. He was mourning the loss of a person he just met, who tried to murder him. I hope that in the afterlife, your heart isn't so filled with darkness, Naruto muttered as he started to stand up, before he grunted and fell to a knee. He felt a throb in his shoulder. His body was tingling, and he was finding it harder to move, not much harder, but his body was numb. It was like there was some kind paralyzing agent inside of his blood, which was spreading from where the bite had been. Koneko walked over to Naruto, before she helped him stand back up. I'll take you back to my apartment, and get you something to wear. Thank you for saving me, Koneko said with nothing more than a dull mutter. She didn't want to show her surprise and blush to this stranger. At the same time, he was putting out a lot of body heat that she found herself enjoying. His warm chakra surrounded his body like a soft aura, one that she could sense and feel with her very skin. It was not unpleasant for her. Thanks, but I should really get home, Naruto said as he stood up at his full height on his own, and Koneko looked at him with serious eyes. You mentioned Konohagakure. I'm sorry to say, I've never heard of such a place in my entire life. There is no place like that in Japan, or any country for that matter, Koneko told Naruto seriously. Naruto frowned deeply. Genjutsu? Naruto thought to himself. Yes, that could explain it. He was in some kind of weird genjutsu, seeing as those were capable of controlling all of the senses, including a person's ability to feel pain. Naruto just had to stop his chakra, and surge it to break the genjutsu if that was the case. Naruto clapped his hands together, and Koneko gasped. The fuck? Koneko thought. her only tell of surprise being her wide eyes as she saw visible streams of yellow chakra escaping Naruto's body and surrounding him. Rocks started to float in the air, and the ground vibrated with the force of this chakra. Huava-aya! Naruto shouted out as he charged up his chakra, and surged it out of his body with enough force it became visible. Koneko was pushed back from the force of the chakra, and she looked around with surprise. He would become a damn beacon for every stray devil in the entire city if he kept this up. The chakra he was unleashing was unreal. Just him charging his chakra could shake the ground. Naruto stopped charging his chakra, and not only did the rocks fall back to the ground, but the ground stopped shaking. Naruto frowned when he saw no changes in his surrounding in the slightest, meaning he wasn't in a genjutsu. It didn't feel like he was in a genjutsu either, though it could just be a very good genjutsu. Naruto brought his hand up to his mouth, and bit down on it hard enough to draw blood, and cause him real physical pain. No changes. Okay, so I guess this isn't a genjutsu. You really never heard of a place called Konohagakure? Naruto asked Koneko with a slightly worried tone of voice. The two best ways to break a genjutsu was giving yourself a real injury, one not related to the genjutsu, and flushing the foreign chakra out of your body that was controlling your senses. He tried both methods, and neither of them worked. This was no genjutsu. I've never heard of such a place. Koneko told Naruto seriously. She had no clue what the charging chakra was about, or the biting himself, but it would seem it was related to some kind of genjutsu. Genjutsu, or art of the illusion. Damn well, my name's Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet you. Naruto said as he extended his hand to Koneko, and she extended her hand back to him. He seemed like a genuinely good man to her. Koneko Tuja. Koneko said back to him. She wouldn't say nice to meet him, because this entire experience had been weird. Not bad, but weird. A very weird experience. Well, this is sort of like a vacation, yeah. My friends will be able to find me no problem. I'll bet they are working out a way to find me right now, Naruto thought as he put his arms behind his head, a grin on his face. He had absolute faith in them, and knew that if he couldn't find them, they would find him. Oh, thanks Koneko-chan, I do need to get dressed, I guess. Bit of a breeze, Naruto said with his cheeks a little red. He was mostly naked in front of a pretty girl after all. It was one thing for him to be mostly naked in his home village, or around his friends, but in this strange place, and with a new girl he just met, it was a little different. Why are you only wearing a towel, by the way? Koneko asked with a raised eyebrow. My friend Lee had been working out, and he crashed through the roof and fell into the girls' changing room by complete accident. A bra had gotten caught on my towel. Lee is a huge workout nut. Anyway, we had to chase after him and I didn't notice the bra until Sakura-chan hit me, Naruto commented. Seeing as Koneko didn't know who those people were, she didn't really have much to comment on. It sounded to her like this Lee had gotten unlucky, and was going to get punished. Naruto tried to help, and by accident he got punched for it, she sighed. Maybe that was why he was strong, because he was getting caught in so many unfortunate events that he had no choice but to grow stronger than the humans around him. The apartment I stay at isn't far from here. I'll kill you if you go through my underwear, Koneko warned Naruto, who raised an eyebrow. Okay, weird statement. The two of them walked away from the wrecked park fountain, with Naruto looking around for anything else that he could use to try and find out where he was. Maybe he could find a map or something and use that to learn his location, and see if maybe Koneko just didn't know where Konoha was. Yeah, maybe that was it, she just didn't know it existed, so to her it might as well not exist. So, Koneko-chan, Naruto was stopped when she gave him a raised eyebrow. Sorry, but chan? Koneko asked, seeing as Naruto was not that much older than her. He was maybe a year older than her at the most. She was curious why he was adding such an affectionate suffix to her name. That was something you did with people you were close with, people you were making fun of, or cute things that you simply liked. She wasn't close to Naruto. He didn't seem like he was mocking her. Was she that cute? Naruto laughed nervously and awkwardly at being called out on that. I usually call most girls with chan. You are pretty cute, so I didn't really think much of it. You are super cute, like a little kitten, Naruto told her, and she nodded her head slowly. That was an understandable reaction. It would seem he was just naturally an affectionate person at heart, which was okay. She wouldn't stop him from adding the suffix to her name. She was just curious if he had been trying to be rude or not. Well then, Uzumaki-sa. Koneko stopped when she saw Naruto frown at her using his family name, and with a suffix. Problem? Koneko asked, and Naruto smiled a little, though with his eyes closed. Sorry, but everyone just calls me by Naruto, or Naruto-kun, or Naruto-chan. Nobody ever really calls me Uzumaki-san. It felt weird, Naruto said with a slight grin, one of his eyes open. Most people in his life called him by Naruto. A few of the people in his life called him Naruto-kun, and the elder toads on Mount Myaboku called him by Naruto-chan. Nobody ever really referred to him by his last name, so it was awkward for him. If you want to be polite, you can be. It just feels really weird, Naruto told her, and she nodded her head, and thought about it for a moment. Well then, Naruto. Koneko stopped for a moment. What was she doing? She was taking a powerful stranger she just met to her apartment to get a change of clothes. She had just met this man, and she already felt comfortable around him, and was finding it so easy to talk with him. She never spoke this much to anyone else she had just met for the first time. There was something about his aura that just made you so comfortable around him, and she didn't know what to make of this. He was such an open person, that he made it so easy for others to unconsciously open up to him as well. He had the aura of a dependable person you could trust, and his warm chakra comforted her. Yeah? Naruto asked with a smile, and she shook her head to clear it of her thoughts. How did you get so strong? Koneko asked with a raised eyebrow, changing what she was going to ask him at the last second. Guts and determination. If you have those, then you can push through any kind of training, Naruto told Koneko as he flexed his arm, and she gulped a little, her cheeks a little red. Okay, so he was super attractive, his warm and gentle chakra aura making him feel even more attractive to her. Her cheeks slowly turned back to normal as she regained emotional control over herself. It was all his aura, that warm and fuzzy, gentle and loving aura that he had. She was allowing it to get to her, and combined with his good looks, she was having a little trouble with keeping herself from finding him attractive. She didn't want to look like some pervert, liking a man for his body, when she just met him. Koneko stopped walking, and Naruto stopped a few steps later when he noticed that she had stopped, and looked at her. Wait, just because I think he is hot, doesn't mean I'm attracted to him. I don't believe in silly things like love at first sight. Koneko thought to herself, shaking her head. She had often heard stories about people suddenly meeting a person, and falling in love with them. Koneko believed that it was a bunch of bull. Sure, you could see a person, and think that is boyfriend material at a glance, but to fall in love? She didn't believe that could happen so easily. She was just taken with him because of his looks, his aura, and the way he saved her life without a thought for his own. You okay there? Naruto asked her as he waved a hand in front of her face. Kaneko's fist smacked Naruto in the face when he shocked her out of her stupor, and she looked around, realizing she must have stopped. She looked towards Naruto, who had a fist-shaped red mark on his right cheek, which was slightly swollen from her sucker punch. Sorry, Koneko said. Okay, so he wasn't going to ever want to have anything to do with her ever again. No man took being hit, and would smile at a girl and treat her like a friend. Hey, you got a mean right hook there. Naruto commented, and he laughed while commenting. She had gotten him good, he had nearly been knocked off his feet there. Thankfully, he had been punched harder many times in his life. Kaneko's punch hurt and all that, but it wasn't like he hadn't been hit harder, or had more painful things done to him. Not to mention he surprised her when she was deep in thought, so she just punched him out of reflex, not anger. Huh? Koneko asked, surprised at the turn of events. He wasn't angry that she punched him in the face like that. Don't worry, I've been hit in the face a lot. You got a mean hook that lady. The Naruto paused when he noticed something off about their surrounding area. Stray Devil Koneko informed Naruto, who nodded his head. He would try and remember what she was called, seeing as the situation demanded that he remember. Koneko looked to where Naruto was looking, before her eyes dulled a little when she saw what it was about. She could see more stray devils, no doubt attracted to the massive release of energy. Naruto started to count the number of eyes he could see glowing into the shadows, and he was finding that the number was a good number of enemies. A number that he wasn't a fan of, even though there was more than enough of him to go around. 14 of them? Naruto asked as he clenched his fist and prepared for glorious combat, or unglorious combat. A full peerage including that other stray. Did they betray their master together? Koneko thought as she got ready to fight herself. A full peerage had 8 pawns, 2 bishops, 2 rooks, 2 knights, and a queen including the stray devil rook that they, Naruto, had killed. That would make a full 15 that were around them. Normally when a devil went stray, it was only a single devil who strayed from their master. It was not normal for an entire peerage to betray their master, unless they killed their master. Koneko tensed up, seeing as she knew that even with Naruto right next to her, they wouldn't be enough to fight 14 stray devils who had feasted on human flesh alone. The power gained by eating humans was immense, but it came at the cost of the change in form that they had gone through. From there, it was their personalities and the abilities they had before transforming that decided what form they would take. The rook of this group looked just like the one that Naruto had already killed. The pawns had transformed so that their bodies were covered in a thick coating of red slime, hiding most of their features, other than their abnormally large bosoms. They had glowing green eyes, and large smiles on their faces as they started to come out of the darkness of the surrounding trees. The knights had grown taller than they were, seeing as they were each around 7 to 9 feet tall. Their arms had transformed into bladed sides, and they had gained more insect-like lower bodies, with their mouths taking on the appearance of a spider's mouth. Their heads were covered in an exoskeleton-like armor, and other than that they wore no clothing either. The bishops were both shrouded. One wore a robe that was shrouding her body, but her sick green skin could be seen. The second one was simply covered in darkness, like her body was made up of darkness itself. She had glowing red orbs for eyes. Finally, the queen. She looked mostly normal, other than the fact that the left side of her naked body was covered in bone armor that was connected to her skin. It was melded and fused with her, like she hadn't fully transformed, but Koneko knew better. This was her fully transformed state. Looks like they want to fight. Fine. Bring it on. I never back down from a challenge. Naruto shouted as he slammed his fist into his palm. He grinned widely at his challengers. Koneko palmed her face. He was an idiot. Yacht. A slime devil started to rush towards Naruto, and Naruto ran towards her with his fist pulled back. He slammed his fist into her face, only for his fist to slip right across her skin, while causing very little damage to her. His hand was covered in her juices, and he jumped back when the slime covering her body expanded and tried to consume him. He landed on the ground, before he waved his hand as fast as he could. "Ew, this is so nasty," Naruto complained as he tossed the slime to the side. "Gross." The bishops raised their hands up, the shadow-covered one clapped them together, and formed a ball of shadows. She threw the shadows at Naruto and Koneko, with it soaring at them at easy-to-dodge speeds. The two separate, with Naruto running to the left, and Koneko jumping to the right, rolling across the ground into a crouched position. "Ha!" The second bishop shouted as she slammed her hands to the ground and thick roots started to come from the earth below them. "The wood release?" Naruto asked in shock as he kicked off a root, and he noticed the knights were flanking him with their scythes ready to bisect him. Naruto grabbed onto a root and clung to it with chakra, causing the knights to miss when they passed by him. Koneko wasn't so lucky. The roots wrapped around her ankle and lifted her up into the air. Smaller roots, vines, started to grow out of the root that was holding her. The slime pawns started to crawl up the side of the root, and towards Koneko as she hung upside down in the air, her rather revealing yellow panties showing as vines wrapped around her arms, holding her from covering herself. Just as the slimes were getting ready to drip their slime, most likely the kind that melts clothing, onto her cloths, flower suction cups formed on two vines, and started to head towards her small breasts. "Shit, I'm about to be molested by plants," Koneko thought, seeing as vines had wrapped around her mouth, preventing her from talking. Knowing Kaneko's luck, this was the part where Naruto stopped fighting just to watch as she got molested. "Poof, I've got you, Koneko-chan!" Naruto shouted out as he formed two clones next to him in the air, and the clones formed a hand sign of their own. When Koneko looked towards Naruto, she saw that in his hands was now a giant shuriken, sharper than any knife she had seen. Naruto kicked off the rook that tried to sneak up behind him, before he threw the Fuma shuriken at Kaneko's direction as fast as he could. The vines and slime was nearly touching Koneko when the Fuma shuriken sliced the root that was holding her. She started to fall out of the air, when she saw the vines around her were still moving. The slime devils fell roughly onto the ground in a pile. A second Fuma shuriken, in the shadow of the first, sliced the remaining vines on her apart, freeing her. "I wasn't molested?" Koneko thought in shock as she looked at her still intact clothing. Her clothes hadn't been destroyed, revealing her breasts and ass? That was new. Normally by this point in the fight she would be barely wearing anything at all. This was new. The bishops dodged the Fuma shuriken, only to turn around when they heard popping noises. The shuriken turned back into clones, and by the time the bishops were aware of what had happened, they were kicked in the heads by the clones. Knocked out cold, their bodies hit the ground with a thump. 2 down, 12 to go. Koneko-chan, watch out! Naruto shouted as the knights rushed at Koneko, intent on slicing her to pieces. Koneko wasn't fast enough to escape in time on her own. Thankfully, the two clones jumped towards her and kicked the knights away before she could blink. The knights went flying a few feet away from them, skidding across the ground, as the clones popped and returned to smoke. Koneko saw the slime girls getting up from their fall, and Naruto noticed that the rook was standing behind the queen. They aren't very strategic, Koneko noticed, seeing as all of the stray devils were sort of doing their own thing. They might be a group, but they didn't fight together like a group. Naruto ran towards the slimes, seeing as they were harder to hit, and he tackled one of them to the ground. They started to slid on the ground together, and like bowling pins, they knocked the other slime devils to the ground. Naruto crossed his fingers and created a clone next to him, before he raised his hand up. Then clone helped him form a spiraling yellow ball of pure chakra into his hand, while Koneko gazed at the beautiful ball of destruction in surprise. Having chakra was one thing, using it to create clones, transformations, and raw energy balls was another thing. Rasengan! Naruto let loose a shout as he slammed the Rasengan into the dirt next to the slimes, and the ground exploded under the power of the Rasengan. A dust storm of dirt, grass, and rocks went everywhere. Naruto jumped out of the dust and landed next to Koneko, before grinning at her. "Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you." Naruto gave her a grin and thumbs up. He wouldn't let these things attack her, not if he could help it. Koneko was surprised, to say the least, that he was protecting a person he just met. Then again, she already knew he was some kind of idiot. She could respect his selflessness though, and she could see that he was genuinely a good person. When the dust settled, the slime girls were no longer covered in slime. The slime that had covered them was covered completely in dirt, transforming their slime into thick mud. The slime devils were moving far more slowly than before, and they had rocks stuck in their mud. Naruto grinned and cracked his knuckles as he rushed towards the 8 slime devils. His fist slammed into the face of one girl, connecting with nearly all of his full force, knocking her off her feet and slamming into a tree, knocked out. Their slime was too slippery, so he used dirt to make it thicker and stick better. Koneko thought as Naruto started to punch the slow-moving devil girls one after the other, before they could defend themselves. "He is strong," the queen said with narrowed, visible eye as she pointed at the rook, and it started to run towards him on her large legs. The queen created a magical circle in front of her, and Koneko could smell a different feeling. A sacred gear. Eh? Naruto was surprised when the rook moved slower than it did before, slamming into him with her whole body. He crashed through a great many trees, and started to skid across the ground on his feet. His slid ended when his back slammed into boulder, and he was bleeding from a gash on his chest. Not that deep that it would be fatal to him, but it was still very deep. Why didn't he dodge that? Koneko thought with her own surprise. She had seen him dodge faster things than that rook's slow attack. Naruto looked towards the rook, who was still moving towards him at a rather slow pace, and Naruto blinked for a moment. While Naruto was surprised when he felt a huge amount of pressure slam into his right side, and he was sent flying across the area. He smashed into a boulder, broke it with his body, and stopped when he impacted against a tree. His arm had claw marks on it, bleeding freshly, and his shoulder all the way down to his elbow was forming a purple bruise on it from the heavy pressure. Naruto saw her running towards him again, and he jumped up into the air. The tree that he was against snapped in two, as if sliced apart by some invisible force. Naruto blinked in surprise before he picked up on it. She was hiding in an illusion. Koneko-chan. Look out, we are under an illusion. She could be anywhere. The thing we are seeing move slowly is just a fake. Naruto shouted to Koneko, before he was slapped out of the air, slamming into the ground. He formed a crater, before he jumped out of the crater when the crater grew even larger, something invisible slamming into it. The queen was surprised. Her sacred gear allowed her to create illusions. She could make things invisible, or make illusions of things she was familiar with. She had created a slow-moving illusion of her comrade to confuse Naruto and the little devil, while she also cast an illusion on her ally to make her invisible. He had noticed it. You should worry more about yourself. Naruto was kicked in the chin by his opponent, and Naruto grabbed onto the leg with a grin on his face, his nose bleeding and lip cut. Naruto grinned to himself wider when he placed his hand on the invisible stray devil, and even when an invisible force hit him, and he was sent rolling across the ground, he still grinned. Koneko started to run towards Naruto, before Naruto vanished before her eyes. You aren't interfering, the queen said, and Koneko grit her teeth. She had no idea where Naruto was standing to go and help him. Naruto jumped into the air towards nothing and threw a punch at the air. He missed and hit the ground, creating a small crater of his own. Naruto looked behind him, and he jumped up high into the air, landing on the ground 50 feet away. The queen and Naruto reappeared to Koneko when the queen looked surprised. Can he see her? The queen let out a surprised grunt as she partially lost control of her own illusion, and Koneko jumped into the bushes. Naruto ducked, and the trees behind him were sliced apart, before Naruto jumped into the air and punched at nothing. Naruto heard a surprised shout, and he grinned a little wider, even when a massive pressure attacked the left side of his ribs, sending him crashing into the ground. He rolled across the ground, spewing blood from his lips as he did so, but he never dropped his grin the entire time. What is he grinning over? Koneko whispered as she started to make her way towards the queen, hiding in the bushes as she did so. There was no way that Naruto could see the rook, even Koneko couldn't see it. Naruto started to charge towards nothing, and he pulled his fist back. Naruto snapped his head to the right, and he changed direction without warning. He punched the air to his right side, and Naruto's fist met with something, at the same time as Naruto's own cheek gained an indent in it, and he was sent flying. Naruto skid across the ground, and regained his balance, while a large indent appeared in the ground where the invisible rook landed. I can see you, Naruto said as he looked in the direction of the rook. What? The queen shouted, and she reapplied the illusion over Naruto, even stronger than before, and he started to run towards the rook again. The rook swung her right arm, and Naruto ducked underneath it, before he kicked the rook in the stomach and pushed her back. She swung her stinger at him, and he dodged to the left, before he formed a clone, and that clone formed a Rasengan. Rasengan! Naruto shouted as he blasted the stringer of the stray devil to pieces, and blasted the beast away from him. The rook screamed, and Naruto jumped up and slammed her face into his knee, shattering her face armor. Naruto slammed her face into his knee a second time, knocking her out cold as she landed on the ground. Naruto landed on the ground, just as the queen dropped the illusion hiding herself. How my illusions are unbreakable! The queen shouted with insanity in her tone, and Naruto grinned and wiped the blood from his hand. He would be more than happy to brag. You can see through your own illusions, and I knew that stray devil lady's skin was the color of blood, so if some of my blood got on her, you wouldn't notice it. Every time she hit me, more of my blood got on her body, and you never covered my blood with your illusion so I could see it, and that way I could see her too, Naruto said as he bragged to the queen of the stray devil group, and with her entire group knocked out, the queen growled and looked at her options. She could take him. His body had taken a huge beating for him to do that plan of his, and he had to be close to passing out from blood loss. She formed a ball of lighting between her palms, and flung it towards Naruto, before she created a ball of fire as well and did the same. Naruto dodged to the side, dodging both attacks, before a spear of rock came out of the ground and stabbed him in the shin, trapping him in place. Naruto grunted in pain, before he attacked the stone and broke it, taking the stone spike from his shin and jumping back. Naruto grabbed a rock and threw it at the queen, forcing her to dodge it, taking her eyes off of Naruto for a moment. She looked back at Naruto, and formed 10 floating spears of rock, and she launched them at Naruto. Then, Casting an illusion over herself, she created 3 more rock spears, and made them invisible to Naruto. He clearly wasn't able to sense her magic. Easy, Naruto thought as he jumped up and dodged the attack. He gasped when he felt 3 spears pierce through his chest, and he fell onto the ground with his heart and lungs pierced by the rocks. Ha 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 ha. Where is that grin and confidence now, you pathetic human? You might have gotten lucky beating my pathetic peerage mates, but I'm the real deal. Die, and become food for my belly. The queen let loose a howl of victory, laughter as she looked at Naruto, who gained another grin as he pointed towards the right. She looked to the right. Made you look? Naruto coughed out, before grinning wider at her. Poof. What? The queen screamed in shock when the Naruto she stabbed many times poofed away in a puff of smoke, the rock spears falling to the ground. She looked back to the right, seeing as that was the last place that the clone had pointed to. She didn't see Naruto jumping towards her from her left side, but seeing a shadow on the ground, she looked to her left and started to form spears of rock again. Koneko jumped out of the bushes behind her and punched the rock spears before they could fully form. Koneko ducked low to the ground, just as Naruto pulled his left back and swung it towards the queen. She was kicked flat in the jaw, her head snapping in the other direction as she was sent flying and rolling across the ground. Naruto landed on the ground where she had been standing, as she herself stopped rolling. Her eyes rolled up into her head. Thanks, Koneko-chan. Naruto thanked Koneko, and she nodded her head. Mini flashback. Naruto formed a clone the second the queen was distracted by the rock he threw, and he rushed towards the bushes that he could see Koneko in, as she tried to sneak behind the queen to take her out. Naruto's clone replaced him, while Naruto landed in the bushes next to Koneko, and she looked at him. PSSSD Koneko-chan, I have a plan. Naruto whispered to her. Flashback end. He knew that the queen would get cocky, and that she would be distracted by killing the clone. He planned on taking advantage of her confusion, and just in case she was able to recover from her confusion, he wanted me to use the element of surprise to take out her offense. He noticed her preference for rock spears and he remembered I have a strong punch. Koneko thought with some shock at seeing the knocked out queen, and seeing this idiot making such a good plan. He had taken advantage and noticed things that even she herself had not noticed. He took advantage of the rook's appearance, and he made himself look like he was getting the shit kicked out of him so that he could smear his blood on the rook and defeat her. He noticed the personality of the queen, and he knew that he could distract her for a second and mess with her mind. He made a multi-step plan in the middle of heavy combat, and was able to notice things that even she hadn't noticed. He had taken advantage of their surroundings, and used it to make the fight go in his own favor. Head, never underestimate Naruto Uzumaki Databayo. Naruto shouted out with a wide grin on his face. Naruto grunted and fell to his knee moments later. He had gotten the shit kicked out of him. His right arm was broken in multiple places. More than likely, he had broken ribs, and he had a gash on his chest, and a stab wound in his leg. Not to mention he took some hits to the head, and his back had slammed into the ground pretty hard. Are you okay? Koneko asked Naruto, and he nodded at her. Yeah, I'll be good as new in a few days. The bleeding stopped already, Naruto said as he gestured to the gash on his chest. The broken bones would take a few days to heal, unless he used that chakra to speed up his already impressive healing. He would rather not do that though, seeing as he would be fine with some rest. Koneko couldn't help but notice how inhuman his pain tolerance was, and how unreal his life force and vitality had to be for him to survive this kind of damage and keep going. Naruto looked at Koneko as he started to stand back up, before he noticed a glint out of the side of his eye. He pushed Koneko to the ground just as a chill went down her spine. Splash. Damn! Naruto shouted as a spear made out of pure light pierced all the way through his thigh, and a second spear pierced through his shoulder. Naruto fell to a knee, while Koneko looked at Naruto with more shock. He had taken a spear of light for her. Naruto looked around, and he saw that all of the knocked out stray devils had been stabbed through the chests with light spears. Their bodies stopped breathing, and Naruto could see them starting to turn into golden dust. Naruto glared up at the sky. They might have been his enemies, but they were knocked out and unable to fight. Look at that, so many stray devils in one place. I thought I noticed them all gathering in one place. A man spoke as he started to come out of the air and landed on the ground. He was wearing a long brown trench coat that covered most of his body. His head dark blue hair, and purple eyes, was wrinkled around the corners of his eyes. He had 4 large black wings coming from his back, covered in black feathers. In his hand was a spear of yellow light, and Koneko stared at it with a serious look, and she looked at Naruto with some concern. He took a spear of light for her without any thought for his own safety, and he just met her. He was more than worthy of her, considering him her ally at this point. He trusted her to battle by his side, and include her in his battle plans. Fallen angel, Koneko muttered with her eyes looking to the sky for more fallen angels. You bastard, they could have been saved. Naruto growled in anger at the fallen angel. Yes, he killed one earlier, but he was left with no choice. These ones still had a chance to be saved. They were knocked out and unable to hurt anyone. He doesn't hate the strays? Koneko looked at Naruto with shock. He had been honestly trying to save the angels, fallen angels, and even devils agreed needed to be killed? Enemies that had tried to murder and eat him? You actually pitted those dirty creatures? What are you? Retarded? The fallen angel asked with an amused look at Naruto. He threw a spear at Naruto as he was standing up, and the spear pierced him through the gut. Naruto took the spear, and he started to limp towards the fallen angel with a glare in his eyes. The fallen angel raised an eyebrow as he formed another spear of light, and he threw it towards Naruto again. Naruto wasn't able to dodge it, so he simply limped forward and moved so that the spear stabbed him through the left shoulder this time. What they were doesn't matter. You killed them without ever even giving them a chance. I will never forgive a cowardly act like that, Naruto shouted as he limped forward even faster than before, and he had fire in his eyes. The fallen angel looked into Naruto's eyes. He froze when he saw those blue eyes staring at him, and he felt the bloodlust in them, the intent to harm. He could see the determination and anger in those eyes. He stepped back, unconsciously, as Naruto walked forward. The fallen angel's hands trembled, before he noticed his own trembling. Fear turned into anger. A human on the verge of death was causing fear in him. Naruto, I'll fight, you need to. Koneko didn't finish, before another spear of light stabbed Naruto through his other leg. He didn't stop walking. Naruto grabbed the spears in his thighs and ripped them out of his legs, before he tossed them to the side and did the same to the ones in his torso. Naruto grit his teeth, before Koneko ran towards Naruto and grabbed his arm, pulling him back by force. Naruto continued to walk forward though, dragging Koneko with him across the ground. Naruto's hand came up and he caught a spear of light before it could pierce him. Let's see how you like it, Naruto shouted as he threw the spear at the fallen angel, and before the man could react, one of his wings was sliced off and flopped onto the ground. Aya, doesn't feel good, does it? Naruto shouted as he caught another spear and threw it into the ground, the fallen angel panting as he tried to recover from the loss of his wing. Naruto fell to his knee glaring at the fallen angel. The man looked at Naruto in fear and started to fly away with 3 wings, not 4. His fear was visible, and Naruto grit his teeth. Are you okay? Koneko asked, and Naruto slumped backwards against her legs. He grunted in pain as his blood started to stop flowing out of his wounds. Just how powerful was his life force and vitality? Bastard, killing the defenseless like that, Naruto grunted, as his eyes started to close, and he passed out from blood loss. Koneko was at a loss at what to do when she saw Naruto start to fall forward. It wasn't often you found a person who was able to instantly forgive his enemies, or somebody who could mourn the death of his enemies like Naruto could. Koneko looked around, and nothing else seemed to be coming for them. She doubted that taking Naruto to a hospital would be a good idea. Too many questions, and honestly she was pretty sure that Naruto would not take very well to Kaneko's own master turning him into a devil without his permission. Koneko didn't have too many options on what she could do in this situation. She leaned down and slung Naruto's arm over her shoulder, and she supported his weight rather easily. She would take him to her apartment, and see if she could find something to patch him up with. He did save her life. Chapter end. Story start. His body is really sturdy, Koneko thought as she wrapped bandages around Naruto's chest to not only cover the wound so that it could cleanly heal, but also so that just in case the wound opened up, he wouldn't bleed everywhere. Her hands went across his body, and she could appreciate how hard and warm it was. Of course, he had taken a beating, but amazingly enough most of the bruises and minor scrapes had already healed. Now the only things that needed to heal were the broken bones, and the larger wounds that had only healed on the outside, not the inside. A human with a natural healing factor many times greater than even a devil's healing ability. To heal from such wounds in little more than a night with no assistance was amazing. What was more amazing was the fact his towel had stayed on the entire fight. He was a mystery. He willingly allowed the rook stray to beat him to the ground, just so that he would bleed enough to cover her body with his blood and see her. He had allowed himself to be beaten to the verge of death for this purpose, and even when he had taken wounds that would kill even supernatural beings, he continued fighting strong. He never lost faith in his plan, and he was able to stick to the plan and take advantage of many factors in the heat of battle, while keeping his cool as he could be. Not even Rias could formulate a plan in the middle of battle. She always made her plans before the battle even started, and while she could adjust the plan in the middle of battle, she nearly never made battle plans on the fly. Naruto had an amazing cleverness for battle. Yuru, my head feels like I got an ass kicking, Naruto complained as he opened his eyes slowly, one being covered by bandages. Your ribs are broken, and your arm is too. You also have damaged organs, you should be dead, Koneko told Naruto with a dull tone. She was amazed by that one herself. Heh, as if something like that could kill me. It will take more than that to take down the future Hokage of Konohagakure. Naruto spoke with nothing but the raw confidence in his own survival ability. Koneko snorted in amusement, and Naruto grinned at her taking amusement. Her cheeks turned red when she realized, in embarrassment, that she had shown genuine emotion in front of what still amounted to a stranger. Yes, a stranger who had saved her life, and fought side by side in glorious combat with her, but a stranger all the same. Something about Naruto just gave a warm, comforting aura that allowed you to be yourself around him. It made you place your faith in him, and it made her drop her guard, and show him emotions she rarely showed people. It was actually a little frightening. Thanks for bandaging me, Koneko-chan. Guess I won't be moving too much for a few more days, Naruto said as he looked at his busted up body. It would take a couple of days to fully recover from what had happened to him. Naturally, at least, If he used unnatural abilities of his he could recover faster, but he would rather not attract too much attention. The last time he let loose his chakra, he attracted to him a horde of enemies, and a huge asshole to him. Best not attract people to his new friend's place. What are you? Koneko asked Naruto. She was a blunt person, deal with it. Eh? Naruto asked, because that was a pretty weird question for her to ask. He wasn't really sure what she meant by what are you seeing, as it should be obvious what he was. He was Naruto Uzumaki, ninja of Konohagakure. He had stated as much already. What race are you? You have inhuman abilities. Cloning, transformation, energy balls. Humans can't do that naturally, Koneko told Naruto, and he scratched his chin with his one free hand. What he picked up from that was that this dimension didn't have humans who could use chakra. If they did, then things like what he could do would be much more common. That would mean that humans didn't have chakra here and that they were weaker than the people from his home dimension. Good to know. That would make it easier for him to blend in if he wanted to blend in. He didn't really care about blending in or stupid stuff like that. Oh, you mean the Rasengan? Confused me for a second when you said energy ball, and yeah, I'm human. Where I'm from, the stuff I showed is pretty common. Naruto mentioned to her. There was no real reason for him to keep it hidden. It wasn't like he was on a mission or anything. His friends would find the dimension he was in, and summon him some way. He had absolute faith in them to save him. Naruto sat up with a groan and bit his thumb, before he brought his free hand and his wrapped up hand together, and formed seals. He swiped his thumb on his palm. Poof, nothing appeared, and Naruto sighed when he realized that his summoning jutsu had something blocking it. He knew of a few fujitsu able to break a summoning contract, or prevent things from being summoned. That, or he was just so far away from his home dimension, that it would take a lot more chakra for him to summon even the smallest of toads. Koneko could only raise an eyebrow, but didn't say anything about it. How are you feeling? Koneko asked moments later, seeing as she still didn't quite believe that he was human, at least on the inside. Maybe he believed he was human, but she didn't believe it. I feel a little pissed that bastard ran away. What a killing people, even enemies, who can't fight back is just wrong, Naruto said with an unpleasant frown at the memory. Killing in self-defense, or when you were protecting something or somebody precious was one thing, but killing somebody who could not defend themselves was wrong. I was going to kill them, Koneko told Naruto, and he looked at her in surprise. What? Why? I mean, sure they were kind of bad, but if you don't give people second chances, you will never know if they can change. Naruto questioned her, and she shook her head at him. His views were noble, very noble, and she could see the value in giving people second chances. It took a pure heart full of courage to give somebody a second chance, and to forgive them for what they did. In that aspect, she could see how somebody like Naruto could find the act of killing stray devils to be deplorable. She would have to educate him. They were stray devils who abandoned their master. They ate people, and grew insane with power. The only mercy you can give them is death. Koneko informed Naruto of the staff situation of stray devils, and Naruto frowned. That was right, they did mention something about eating him. Eating people is wrong, but killing them won't change the fact they killed people. Never mind, this conversation isn't going anywhere, Naruto complained as he laid back down on the bed. Koneko nodded her head slowly as well, seeing as she was sure nothing she would say could change his mind. She placed a cup of tea on his lap, and nodded to him as he reached down for it to take from her, and he sipped at it. He gagged. Something wrong? Koneko asked, and Naruto looked at the tea like it was some kind of gross science experiment. I think your tea went bad, Naruto said to her, and she tilted her head slowly and looked at the cup in his hand. That is a herbal medicine to restore life force a little. Your life force is unnaturally huge, Koneko said, and she blushed a little. Life force was something that was rumored to transfer into other areas, like breathing ability. Okay? Naruto questioned, and he was about to stand up, before he noticed that he was pretty much but naked except for some boxers that came from who knows where. They were plain black ones. Did you strip me? Naruto asked her, not that he cared too much if she saw him naked, but her stripping him was a bit perverted of her. He would hate to have to give her a pervert nickname. She was such a cute girl. It would be a shame if he had to call her something like Eroniko or something. Ero Koneko Ero, Ko, Nico Eroniko. I didn't look, I bought those boxers from for cheap, so don't worry. I slid them on under the towel, it was covered in blood, Koneko told him, not looking him directly in the eye when she spoke. She didn't peek, she really didn't, but she had a very sensitive sense of smell, and she had been able to smell that he was a very fertile male. Koneko wanted to slap her cheek, but it would look weird if she did something. She blamed Naruto. It all started when she saw his mostly naked, dripping wet body coming out of the crater. The way she saw his muscles glistening with water as he fought that first rook. After that, it was harder for her not to see Naruto in a slightly sensual light. He was an attractive man, he was brave, bold, and a carnivore. Yo, you're red? Naruto pointed out as he got closer to Koneko. She had yet to notice him, too absorbed in her own thoughts. Most men are total herbivores in Japan, Koneko thought in annoyance. It was rare to meet a man like Naruto in Japan, it really was. Strong, reliable, and he had a body that had it going on. Not to mention with his blonde hair, peach skin, and blue eyes, he looked like he came from an exotic country. Yo, Koneko turned pink when she noticed Naruto was inches away from her, and she resisted the urge to hit him when she saw concern in his eyes. His eyes showed his emotions too well. They were so easy to read it was scary. Sorry, Koneko apologized as she backed away, and Naruto stood up. Koneko stood up as well and pushed Naruto, not too gently, back down on the bed. You need to rest in order to heal. Koneko told him forcefully, and Naruto grunted. Her eyebrow twitched. He grunted at her. Yeah? Damn, what is with everyone and making me lay in bed when I'm hurt? Naruto complained as he laid back down, and Koneko sighed in annoyance. Okay, so he wasn't perfect. He did complain about things that annoyed him more than a Japanese man would as well. He was very verbal. Are you even Japanese? Koneko asked, and Naruto looked at her with dull eyes. What the fuck is Japanese? Naruto asked her with dull eyes. He had never heard that term before in his life. It sounded like some kind of nationality, but where he came from, those kinds of things didn't exist. Koneko just dropped her jaw, before she closed it, and shook her head. Okay, that little tidbit made sense. It would explain why Naruto seemed to be more wild than Japanese men. He wasn't a Japanese man. He wasn't raised in the same culture, despite having a Japanese name. Koneko palmed her face, put a bag of opened chips on Naruto's lap. Never mind, here. Eat. Koneko stated quickly, and Naruto nodded as he snacked on a chip. She was taking care of him in the most basic way. She was forcing him to stay in bed, and giving him a snack. She also bandaged him up, not that he really needed it, but it was still a nice thought. He appreciated what she was doing. Naruto furrowed his brow. You know, who are you? Something seems off about you. Naruto mentioned to her, and she nodded her head. That was right, she never introduced herself. I am Koneko Tuju, a reincarnated devil in service to the house of Gremory. My master is Rias Gremory, and I am her rook. She gave the practiced introduction. It was the official way to introduce herself, giving her status as well as the house she worked under. She sweat dropped moments later when Naruto scratched his head. I didn't understand a word of that. Naruto laughed awkwardly as he pointed out something he didn't get. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen. I dislike the time it takes for ramen to cook, and my hobbies are gardening and tasting different ramen flavors. Try something like that, Naruto stated to her, and she raised an eyebrow. Was he obsessed with ramen? I am Koneko Tuju. I like rap music and candy. I dislike perverts. My hobby is boxing and eating. Koneko followed his example, and Naruto nodded his head. There. Now I know who you are much better. Nice to really meet you, Koneko-chan. If you ever want, I would be happy to eat or box with you. Naruto offered. She seemed strong, and he liked sparring with strong opponents. She was kind of slow, but he was sure that he could go slower just so that they would have a fair match. Guy, girl, animal, or whatever didn't matter when it came to sparring. Naruto sparred with guys, girls, animals, and loads of other things in his training. The best way to get to know a person was to spar with them. When two skilled warriors crossed fists, they could read each other's hearts, some people would say. Koneko sucker punched Naruto in the ribs. Not until you are better, Koneko said to Naruto, while he was on his side cradling his hurting body. He sucked in his breath, his entire body having felt that pulse of pain. Any favorite colors? Koneko asked, and Naruto nodded when he recovered from her punch. I like orange. Why? Naruto asked her, and she didn't answer. She just stood up, and started to walk out of the room. No reason, stay, Koneko told him as she closed the door behind herself, and there was a clicking noise. A noise that told Naruto just what she did when she left the room. She locked the door. Naruto thought with a raised eyebrow when he noticed a pair of panties laying on the ground, white with blue dots on them. Not that it really mattered that much to him. He had seen naked women before. Something like panties, that were not being worn by the woman, meant very little to him. He just noted that Koneko seemed to be a little lazy cleaning her room. She had clean shirts on the floor, skirts, and panties around. He guessed she lived alone, just like he did. His eyes softened a little when he thought about Koneko living alone. She had bandaged him up, so the least he could do was do something for her as well. Shuffling from the bed and to his feet, Naruto grunted in pain when he stood up and looked at his bandaged legs. That was right, he did get a spear right through his leg during the fight. Naruto ignored it, and went over to what he guessed was her dresser, and opened it up. Panties, socks, and bras in the top drawer. Shirts in the second drawer. Skirts in the third one. Finally she had weird pieces of paper in the last drawer. Paper with a strange red symbol on it, which what looked like a stylish rose in the middle. It wasn't Fuinjutsu like what he knew how to do, but something entirely new. Naruto walked around the room, and whatever was clean he folded up and placed in the right drawers, and whatever was dirty he put into a pile. Naruto walked the length of the room, and he opened the closet door, and found the dirty clothes hamper. Tossing the clothes from the pile, into the hamper, he finished with getting the clothes off the ground. He did notice she had some rather interesting outfits hanging up in her closet though. A lot of the clothes in her drawer were simple uniforms. Oh, one of those papers fell out of the drawer, Naruto noticed out loud as he walked over to the dresser and picked up one of the papers. It was still super weird. He looked around the room for anything else to do, refusing to stay in bed even if he needed to heal. He hated being bored, and helping Koneko clean as repayment for helping him was something he had to do. He couldn't just allow himself to be healed, and not offer some kind of repayment for that kindness. If only there was some other way that he could help her out. Oh, looks like I missed one, Naruto said as he picked up a pair of panties off of the ground and started to head towards the dresser again, with both the panties and the paper in one hand. Naruto opened the dresser up and prepared to put the panties in them. Man, I wish there was something else I could do to help her out, Naruto said to himself with a smile on his face. A bright red glow emitted from the middle of the floor, causing the entire room to gain a similar glow to it. Naruto blinked and turned his head, the papers slipping out of his hand and falling onto the floor as he did so. Eh? Naruto asked when a pretty girl started to come out of the circle. She was taller than Koneko by a large amount. She had long black hair tied up in a long ponytail. Her purple eyes were the same color as the fallen angel head that he had fought. She had pale skin and a rather attractive body. She wore an orange bow and had on a white kimono top with red hakama pants on. She must have been some kind of priestess of something, or she was just dressed like it before coming here. Her breasts were huge, as in, nearly on par with Tsunade or Hinata level huge. Naruto was surprised by them, but not that surprised. Again, he had seen bigger. Hello, my name is Akeno Himejima, Queen of Rias Gremo. Akeno stopped her introduction to a new client when she took notice of several important things. The panties in Naruto's hand, the mostly naked state of his body, the fact they were in Kaneko's room, the bandages he was wrapped in. Naruto questioned again, while Akeno smiled with her eyes closed. Rias would be able to pay for any damage to the window that was about to happen. A fireball started to form as she pointed her hand towards Naruto. It seems a pervert has made cute little Koneko-chan the target of his vile perversions. A senpai must protect her cute kohai, Akeno said, and Naruto looked at her. Then he looked at himself, and everything that was wrong with this picture. Naruto shouted in shock. Akeno fired the fireball and it smashed into his face. The explosion was a small one, but Naruto was still sent flying through the nearest window. The glass shattered, some pieces lodging in his back as he was sent flying out of the apartment building and into the night. Naruto's face bandages had burned off, and a new wound opened up above his right eye as he flipped and landed on the ground. Hey lady! I'm not a pervert, Naruto shouted as he landed perfectly balanced. Akeno jumped out of the window, and she looked at the panties in his hand. She smiled at Naruto and covered her mouth with her hand. Ufufu, am I supposed to believe that? Oh well, it seems that I will have to use some more magic to punish you with, Akeno stated to Naruto, and he yelped when crystals of ice shot towards him. Naruto ducked underneath them, and Akeno simply smiled at his reflexes. She would give it to him. He had those in spades. She raised her hand up into the air, and a huge amount of water started to come down onto Naruto as a flood of liquid covered the ground. Naruto jumped up and landed on top of the water. Hey! Listen to me before Naruto shouted, before Akeno called forth lightning and struck the water. Lightning coursed through Naruto's body as he was shocked, letting out surprised and pained yells. When the lightning stopped, Naruto's spiky hair was even spikier, and he himself was a little toasted. Durable, aren't you? Akeno said as she froze the water that was on the ground, and Naruto jumped away from the water completely. Akeno opened her eyes, showing a sick, sadistic pleasure in them that Naruto noted. Naruto's eyes twitched when he saw that perverse gleam in her eye. She was having too much fun with this. Naruto dodged a bolt of lightning that nearly struck his head, bending backwards with his hand touching the ground, his back a perfect arch. Naruto stood back up and looked towards the giggling Akeno as leathery black wings came from her body. His eyes were deadpan as he looked at the tree that had a burnt hole in it behind him. Naruto looked back towards Akeno, and she took to the air. Okay, so he was going to have to stop her with force. Great, just great. Naruto grabbed a rock from the ground, and flung it towards Akeno. She dodged the rock in the air, before a second rock smashed into her wind, a rock in the shadow of the first rock. She lost her balance and fell a few dozen feet before regaining it. She looked to the ground and saw that Naruto was no longer there. Take a nap! A foot slammed into the top of her head, Naruto having jumped in the air higher than she was flying. His foot made a solid impact, sending her crashing into the ground, a small shockwave from both the impact, and her hitting the ground and making a crater, letting Akeno know this wasn't some normal pervert. This was a supernatural pervert, and her face was embedded in the rock, even as Naruto landed on the ground. Is it normal for clothes to rip like that? Naruto asked himself when he looked at Akeno, and saw that even though her breasts were pushed up against the ground, there was a rip in her outfit, revealing side boob. He had kicked her in the face, not the boob, so why was the clothing around her breast getting ripped? Maybe she hit the ground hard enough to rip her clothing? That or this world's clothes were made of paper. Naruto sighed in relief, before he was surprised when Akeno started to stand back up. Her knees were a little shaky, she had taken a hard hit to the head. She had some blood moving down her face, before dripping off her chin and onto the ground. When she stood up, she turned around towards Naruto. Her pupils seemed more focused than before, and she had red cheeks from something. Sure, it hadn't have been his strongest kick thanks to his injuries, but her standing even after his weaker kick was a testament to her durability. That was quite the firm kick you have. This is making me excited. Akeno said as she licked her lips, licking the blood that was on them away. Naruto froze. Blood-licking perverts who liked not only causing pain, but feeling pain as well. A female pervert who licked blood, caused pain, with big breasts and pale skin. Nope. Naruto turned around and started to run away. He was not dealing with this shit. Never again was he going to deal with this dimension's version of Anko Mitarashi. Even on injured legs he moved them fast. Akeno paused in surprise at the sight of him running. Eh? Akeno asked in shock. Her jaw dropped at the sight of her prey running from her. Usually men were super excited when she did that, and it made them drop their guard even further than her body usually made them drop it. Nobody had ever flat out refused to fight her, turn the other direction, and run from her before. She always had opponents who would either cower in fear as she tortured them, or died rather quickly because they couldn't handle her. This was new. Nope, nope, nope. Naruto thought as he shook his head. Not today, not tonight, he guessed. He wasn't dealing with this again. He was done with perverted women who had pain fetishes. Yufufu, come back, pervert-kun. I'll make it feel as good for you as it does for me. Akeno flew after Naruto, slowly catching up to Naruto as he started to jump across buildings, moving from building to building with surprising speed for an injured man. No, but that makes me lonely. Akeno giggled as she shot more lightning down at Naruto. Naruto dodged all of the bolts, with chunks of street on the ground getting burnt marks on them. Be lonely. Naruto couldn't help but play the part of the straight man when she made those comments. He glared at her with comical rage at the situation, and commented to what she said. He still dodged her attacks as she rained the elements on him. She threw fireballs, lightning, balls of water, and shards of ice at him. He dodged them all before he landed on the ground and looked around for some kind of cover to take. Akeno landed on the ground a few meters away, and she had a large ball of lightning above her head the size of a basketball. She was giggling, and he could swear that her lips were glistening as she licked them a second time. This will only hurt you, but it will feel great for me. Stealing panties from my cute Koneko-chan is unforgivable after all, pervert-kun, Akeno stated, and she shot the ball at Naruto. Akeno was shocked when his right arm was burned off by the ball of lightning, seeing as he didn't really try and dodge the attack. Poof! A burnt trash can appeared where Naruto had been, and she looked around, surprised that he was able to hide his presense from her. She was an expert at sensing presences, to the point she could hide her own. Was he a ninja? She never noticed when Naruto appeared behind her in a blur of speed, with his free hand holding out 2 fingers. He was crouched down low, and his eyebrow was twitching. Stop calling me, Naruto started out, and Akeno started to look behind her, but not quickly enough when Naruto lunged forward. His arm shot out towards her body, and Akeno's face went totally blank for a moment when something different happened. A tactic that she herself had never seen anyone use in battle before. Naruto's finger was shoved right up her clothes butt, right between the cheeks and poking her in a very special place. Eh? Akeno asked, before a flood of strength and pain filled her ass when Naruto finished with the technique. She was sent flying across the street, smashing into a car hard enough to make an Akeno-sized indent in it. The car's lights went off as the alarm was triggered. A pervert, 1,000 years of death, Naruto said as he stood up with a smirk on his face. Yufufu. Such a wondrous technique, it really brings out the masochism in me. Akeno muttered as her cheeks started to turn red. Naruto went more pale and placed his arm up in defense of himself. What the fuck? What the hell is wrong with this pervert? Naruto thought as his lips puckered, his eyes going blank. He had never met somebody who enjoyed that technique, because even now Akeno was visibly pained by the pain in her but that pain was only turning her on even more. She was such an obvious sadist/masochist pervert freak that Naruto would compare her perversion to that of his own teacher. She freaked him the hell out. I'll have to add it to my own repertoire of techniques, though maybe covering my fingers in electricity will add more pain to it. Akeno spoke under her breath, and Naruto gulped when he heard her say it. His butt cheeks clenched at the thought of that one happening. Then again, he added an exploding dagger to his own version of it before. Electric fingers versus exploding knife? His seemed a little more dangerous, a lot more than hers was. Naruto surged forward while Akeno was still distracted, and slammed his elbow into her stomach. The back of her clothes exploded from the blow, and a large hole appeared in the front of her clothes as well. She was launched away and slammed into a brick wall, cracking it with a small amount of blood and spit coming from her mouth as she did so. She fell from the wall and landed on the ground. Now her underboob was revealed as well. Okay, no running, having to knock her out the old-fashioned way. Naruto said as he prepared to fight Akeno. Time to kick some ass. I'll have to take you completely seriously, it seems this is so much fun. I can't wait to hurt you and be hurt by you. Akeno said as she got ready to use more magic. Naruto went towards her, getting into her guard. He had noticed something. Akeno stepped back in surprise, but Naruto punched her in the face, and smashed her face into the wall. The wall shattered and Akeno went crashing into a family having a family dinner. The entire dinner table was destroyed, and she went flying through another wall with Naruto following after her. He punched her a second time and punched her through the other side of the house. She raised her arms to guard a third punch, having 2 red marks on her cheeks from the punches, which visibly hurt. Naruto kicked her in the stomach, forcing her to use her magic, but breaking her concentration and sent her across the street. He didn't give her any room though, and went after her. You have a good defense, and most likely hit hard, but you are weak against martial arts, aren't you? Naruto asked her as he slammed his forehead into her head. She gasped as she was pushed back even more by him. The entire fight, she had stuck to long range, and thrown elemental attacks at him, while keeping a sage distance. She was durable, so he wondered why she didn't go in for close combat. The reason was now obvious to him. She was strong, fast, and durable, but just being strong and fast didn't make you good at close combat. She had little skill in hand-to-hand, though as she raised her hands up in a basic defensive stance he noted that while she was weak in that area, she did have the basics of it. Beating on a woman isn't nice, Pervet-kun. Akeno told Naruto with a rather forced smile on her face, trying to break his concentration long enough to use her magic. I'm not a pervert. Naruto shouted out in annoyance. With a quick chance, she shot a point-blank ice shard into his gut. Naruto grunted as he was impaled by ice, letting Akeno move away from him. She was panting, quickly exhausting her large reverse of magic. She was using too many magic attacks in quick succession. He had dodged a lot of her attacks. Naruto yanked the ice out of his stomach, and held it up as if it were a kunai. When she shot more attacks at him, lightning, Naruto looked at the ice. Naruto sliced the lightning bolts in half. Akeno gasped in surprise again. What? Thank you, Asuma-sensei, for teaching me the basics of wind chakra flow. Naruto thought to himself, the ice shard now sharpened with wind chakra. When he was learning how to use wind chakra, he had gone to one of the few other wind users in the village. Asuma showed, and taught him, how to flow his wind chakra across an item. Naruto had never thought the skill would come in handy as it was doing now though, seeing as he mostly beat people with his fists, or Rasengan. Even though he was good with blades, he never had a chance to use the skill. Akeno raised both her hands up, and Naruto saw her forming a large ball of lightning, and as she did so she gained a visible amount of strain as she used more magic. Naruto rushed her, and pushed his knee right into the center of her chest, knocking the wind right out of her, as she lost control of the magic. The sphere above her started to go unstable. Boom! The sphere exploded, and seeing as most of Akeno's magic had been inside of that, a large explosion covered nearly the entire street. A large crater appeared, and Akeno was surprised at how unhurt she was from that attack. She could feel a pressure covering her body, a hard warm source of pressure pressed up against her actually. That being said, she still couldn't breathe seeing as the wind had been knocked out of her. She coughed as she tried to fill her lungs with air again. She continued to cough, until she regained her breath. Her eyes fluttered open, and she found herself in a strange situation. The man she attacked was protecting her. He had shielded her with his body, having taken the brunt of the explosion to his back. His back was one huge burn wound, with blood dripping from it. He was gritting his teeth in pain, but he was still surprisingly conscious. Damn, that hurt a lot. Naruto grunted as he rolled off of Akeno, allowing her to sit up. She was no longer in the mood to battle Naruto. You protected me? Akeno asked, more than a little surprised. Somebody who she impaled with ice, struck with fire, water, and lightning, and insulted protected her with his own body. He was already injured before fighting her, and protecting her had placed his own life in peril. She didn't know anyone could be so selfless or stupid. Naruto could only grunt. You are a sick, twisted pervert. Akeno took offense to that as Naruto said it, but he continued to talk further. But I don't hate you. You creep me out a lot. You are a creepy girl. You attacked me because you thought I was stealing from Koneko-chan, so I don't think you are a bad person. Naruto finished off with a pained smile. He hadn't been beating on her because he wanted to. He was simply doing it to defend himself from her. Knocking her out seemed the quickest way to calming her down and explaining the situation. Koneko-chan? Akeno asked. That stood out to her, so he knew Koneko. Yes, she bandaged me up after I fought this peerage of stray devil people things and this asshole fallen angel person thing. Her room was a little dirty, so I was cleaning it to show my gratitude, Naruto said as he used words Koneko had said before. Now Akeno was interested in him even more. He fought, and from what he said, defeated an entire peerage's worth of stray devils. She wasn't too surprised, seeing as he had been able to match her, even in his weakened state, but taking on an entire stray peerage by yourself was a noteworthy feat. Naruto's cheeks were a little red as he looked away from Akeno. Then I'm sorry for attacking you, Akeno said, and Naruto nodded his head, not looking directly at her. No problem. Are your clothes made of paper? They seem to rip a little too easily. Naruto mentioned to her, and she looked down, for the first time noticing she was naked. Oh, she had wondered why she could feel the air on her nethers. Naruto pushed her to the ground several feet away and got on top of her, grunting as he did so, much to her surprise. Damn, you aren't hurt, are you? Naruto asked her, and she smiled slyly at him. Era, pushing me to the ground before I even know your name? Akeno stopped when she felt something warm dripping onto her exposed stomach. She also noticed a yellow light coming from that area as well. A spear of light? I knew if I followed you, I would be able to find you at your weakest. A familiar voice, to Naruto, spoke from the air. Bastard. Naruto grunted in anger when he turned and got off of Akeno, and saw the fallen angel bastard who killed those people. Naruto had sensed the attack coming when it did, and he knew that the man had aimed at Akeno. Akeno, who looked and saw a large spear of light going through Naruto's back, and coming out of his stomach, was just surprised. Then that surprise turned into a form of anger when she looked at saw the fallen angel that was ignoring her and staring at Naruto. After you ripped my wing off, I decided to tail you. I figured if I attacked some innocent human with you around, you would take the blow for them. This is just perfect though, the priestess of thunder, I get to kill a devil and you. Not only that, but she weakened you even more just for me, and she is out of magic, the fallen angel said, and Naruto grunted as he ripped the spear out of him. He tossed it to the side and it faded away after touching the ground. Naruto glared at him. You got a problem with me, fine, but leave her out of it. I'll fight you all you want, I have a bone to pick with you anyway. Naruto growled in anger as he forced himself to stand up. The man wasn't wrong though, Naruto's body was weakened even further by his fight with Akeno. The strays had done their damage, Akeno had done damage, and he had taken a lot of damage from protecting her twice. Naruto glanced back at Akeno. She was glaring at the fallen angel. What is your name? This is Gremory territory, you can't start a confrontation here. Akeno warned the man, and he laughed. I don't care if this is Gremory land. I see a devil, I kill a devil stray or not. My name is Lucas. I originally came here to check out the source of the massive energy, but seeing the chance to kill you devils and this bastard is something I can't turn down. Lucas spoke with confidence. Sure, Naruto had scared him before into running away, but now Naruto was extremely weakened, beating him would be child's play now. How could he not take this chance to kill him, and the priestess of thunder, while he had the chance? Akeno stood up, now covering her breasts for real as she prepared to fight. 3 wings? Akeno noticed the uneven number of wings, which didn't make sense to her. It looked like one of them had been ripped off or something. Akeno smirked when she understood. Akeno, can you make any more fireballs? Naruto asked her lowly, and she nodded her head slightly. They would be weak, but she could make fireballs. She had enough magic in her to do at least that much. Against a fallen angel of this level, the level of fireballs she could make would be unable to really do anything though. It would be better for her to focus on lightning, and do something of that nature instead. So far he had surprised her, so she would see where this went. Naruto prepared his chakra, and he stood in front of Akeno, using his body to shield what she was doing from Lucas. I planned on going through you first anyway. Thanks for stepping up. I'm going to kill you slowly for ripping my wing off, Lucas stated to Naruto coldly as he formed a spear of light larger than the one he had made earlier. Naruto felt heat against his back, allowing him to know that Akeno had made the fireball. Lucas threw the spear of light, and Naruto caught it in his hand before it could hit him. Using his wind chakra, Naruto created an invisible aura of wind around the spear. It was still a weapon, and a weapon was a weapon that he could use wind chakra to increase its piercing and cutting power. Throw it, Akeno! Naruto ducked a little so that Akeno could get a clear shot at Lucas. Lucas raised an eyebrow when he saw the pathetically small fireball that Akeno shot towards him. He used one of his wings and moved it in front of him as a shield. The fireball got closer to him, and Akeno looked towards Naruto. Naruto raised the spear of light above his head, before pulling back his arm. He threw it towards the fireball, and at Lucas. That is going to destroy my attack before it ever hits Lucas, Akeno thought as she stared at Naruto. Whenever wind chakra touches flames, Naruto trailed off as the spear got closer to the fireball, which was now feet away from Lucas. The spear was fast approaching the fireball, and it would hit the fireball long before the fireball hit the man. The spear sank through the fireball. Wah dash! Lucas started before a reaction happened in a split second. He didn't have enough time to prepare any dodge. The light spear, coated in wind, reacted with the fireball. The flames spread and coated the entire spear. They burned white hot now, and the size of the light spear's flame aura grew so that it was 5 times larger than before. Huh! Akeno shouted in shock when the spear stabbed through the wind, and like a hot knife through butter, sliced through it. The entire wing burst into flames, and the man started to fall to the ground. His flaming wing fell to the ground after him, and he gasped in pain at losing another of his wings. This time the wound burned closed. The spear continued to fly towards the sky, before it faded away into the clouds. She looked at Naruto, who was grinning at his plan. Whatever wind chakra touches flames, it causes those flames to burn hotter than ever. It increases their power using your spear as a base. Akeno and I created, and Naruto stopped bragging when he realized that he didn't have a name for the new attack. He looked towards Akeno with a deadpan look, trying to see if she had a name. He didn't know what the spear was made of, so he didn't want to name it something wrong. Flaming Holy Shot? Akeno helpfully supplied the name for the attack. Seeing as Naruto wasn't a devil, he could touch holy light with no adverse effects. His wind had created a barrier between the demonic magical flames and the holy light. The attack had been the perfect blend of chakra, holy magic, and demonic magic. You genius bastard! Lucas said when he appreciated the mind for battle that Naruto had. He had kept Akeno hidden long enough for her to create the fireball, and he waited until Lucas fired his spear before having her launch it. In his arrogance, he hadn't even considered the fireball dangerous and didn't bother dodging it. So Naruto waited until the fireball was too close for him to dodge, before he combined the attacks together. He could admire the in-battle planning, and the fact that Naruto was capable of working together with somebody who he had just been fighting so well. His potential could not be allowed to continue any further. Next up will be our demon lightning, Rasengan. Naruto shouted out towards the man, and Akeno got the hint. She was to make lightning. She placed her palms together, before she started to form crackling lightning between them. Naruto reached out with his hand, and he created spirals of chakra. He palmed her lightning and applied shape manipulation to the lightning for her. She was providing the element, and he was providing the chakra for it. The crackling lightning started to take shape into a spiraling ball of lightning, with many hundred spirals contained inside of it. As if I will let that hit me! Lucas shouted as he took to the sky, and Akeno made her own leathery bat wings come out. She grabbed a hold of Naruto with one hand, and he took control of the attack with his other. She lifted him up into the air, and they chased down the fallen angel. Naruto nodded to Akeno, and she flew towards him faster. The man, used to 4 wings, was slower than before and wasn't able to stay very far ahead of them. Akeno flung Naruto, and Lucas tried to dodge. Naruto thrust the demon lightning, Rasengan towards the man. The unstable sphere crackled, before it exploded against Naruto. Naruto was flung out of the sky, and down to the ground. He crashed through a house, and came out of the side of the same house. Eh? Lucas and Akeno both looked confused. Shit, the sphere wasn't stable enough to hold its form. I wasn't able to control the lightning. Naruto thought as he looked at his burned hand. He had applied the shape manipulation of the Rasengan to Akeno's lightning, and had formed a new Rasengan. Sadly, the Rasengan was unstable thanks to the fact that Naruto couldn't control Akeno's lightning nearly as easily as she herself could. When Akeno threw Naruto, the control of her lightning transferred over to him, and he lost control of it. To use the technique, he would need to stay close to Akeno and have her control the lightning, otherwise the technique would backfire on him. Akeno landed on the ground, and pulled him back into the air when a light spear stabbed into the ground nearby him. She started to fly away to escape the situation, seeing as they had to the disadvantage. She spun and dodged a light spear in the air, and Naruto looked at his burned hand. We should take a moment to let my magic recover. Right now, I can barely even cover my fingers with lightning, Akeno told Naruto, and he blinked for a moment when a thought came to his mind. He grinned to himself. Hey Akeno, I have a plan. Think you can trust me? Naruto asked her, grinning up at her, even as she started to fly lower to the ground. They had lost sight of the fallen angel for now, but he would be on their tail soon enough. Now he had lost 2 wings to Naruto. He was going to be out for blood even more than before. She nodded her head as they landed on the ground. She would listen to his plan. With Lucas. They landed around here somewhere, Lucas muttered to himself as he landed on the ground. Akeno flew faster than he did, so it had taken him a bit to catch up with them. Now that he looked around and saw that they were standing at the corner of what was normally a busy street during the day. All that was around was a trash can, a bus bench, some street signs, another trash can, and some bushes. He smirked when he saw the bushes rustling a little, and formed a spear of light. He flung the spear at the bushes without any warning. Nya! A cat ran out of the bushes, startled and clearly afraid. He frowned to himself and looked at the trash cans. Come on out! Lucas shouted as he threw a spear at the trash can, the first one, to see if one of them was hiding inside of it. It went through it, but nothing. They weren't inside of the trash can, and that was annoying. He formed 2 spears, and started to throw them in random directions in the hopes of hitting something. When he hit nothing for a while, he prepared to fly off and search in another area. Get an eye from the sky. Naya. Oh, just a cat, Lucas said in annoyance when he looked behind him and saw the same cat from earlier. He looked away from it, not noticing that the cat was grinning at him now. The cat's blue eyes glinted. Are you sure? Poof. The cat turned into Naruto and Akeno, both of them crouched together on the ground. Naruto's burned hand formed the tiger seal with Akeno's hand. She had both of their fingers coated with her lightning. Lucas started to turn around in shock when he saw the cat had become his enemies. 1,000 years of death. Naruto and Akeno chanted together, as they shoved their lightning-coated fingers right between his cheeks. Like a taser, the man started to twitch all over his body as he collapsed onto the ground. He was shouting out curses as they dug into him deeper. They pulled out, and the man's hands went to his ass. You fucking pieces of shit poked my asshole. Lucas shouted in humiliation at them. Yofufu, I hope you enjoyed it. More delicious pain will be on the way. Akeno told him as she grabbed his wrists, and placed her foot on his back. Snap. She wasn't good at hand-to-hand combat, but she still had the strength of a rook. She yanked on Lucas' arms until they both snapped. She snapped them at the elbows first, before she yanked even harder a second time and snapped them out of their sockets. Lucas let loose a soundless scream of agony. Akeno's delight at his pain only grew as she pushed his arms right back into their sockets, only to rip them right back out of them. She started to laugh under her breath, as she caused him enough pain to paralyze him, but not enough to knock him out or send him into shock. She let go of his arms, and he dropped to his face. How did you hide? Lucas asked, and Naruto looked towards Akeno. I used the combination transformation to turn both me and Akeno into a cat. I figured if I could transform a giant toad and myself into a fox, I could make Akeno and I a cat. Then when Akeno mentioned her fingers, I remembered when she wanted to add lightning to my 1,000 years of death. I knew the pain and electricity would paralyze you. And Akeno is out of magic, but she has both arms still. Naruto was more than happy to give away his entire plan. Seeing as giving away the plan didn't change the fact that it had worked, Akeno was more than happy to allow it to happen as well, seeing as it gave Lucas time to recover so that she could torture him even more. Not to mention it gave her time to build up her magic reserves again, and use magic once more. So you beat me with petty tricks, Lucas said, and Naruto looked at him deadpan. Hey, you were the one you waited until I was at my weakest to attack me. You deserve this much now. Apologize for the people you've killed. They could have had loved ones, comrades, Naruto told the man, who looked at Naruto. Then he gained a dangerous smile. They weren't the only ones with comrades, Lucas called out, but he gasped in pain when a spear of light pierced his gut. What? Lucas gasped out in shock when he saw a pinkish pierce of light had pierced him instead of Naruto. Naruto and Akeno's eyes widened as well, while Lucas started to spew blood from his mouth. Looks like your comrades don't like you, Akeno taunted the dying man, and Naruto sent her a sharp look for it. You interrupted my planning for a half-human and an exhausted devil? A female voice spoke, and Naruto looked up at the sky. She was about his height, annoyingly enough, with the same black hair and violet eyes that Akeno. She kept her hair down though, and she wore more normal clothes at the moment. She had a pink jacket with a v-neck blue shirt under it, and a darker red skirt on. She wore pretty skimpy panties, but overall she was extremely attractive. Rainier? I had them on the ropes, Lucas spoke, before she threw another spear at him. Naruto grabbed it before it hit him. Lucas and Akeno looked at Naruto, shocked at his actions, while Naruto stabbed the spear into the ground and glared at Rainier, just as men wearing strange clothing started to come into the area. 5 of them in all of them wearing black suits, and over the top of the suits they wore white jackets with cross pendants hanging from their necks. A black-haired guy with a ponytail and a sword made of light. A large muscular bald guy holding a large axe edged with light. A short black-haired guy holding some kind of staff of light. A short man with blonde hair, holding a light dagger. Boohoo, Devil-chan looks delicious all naked and shit. The man in the front said, a white-haired man in the same uniform, with both a sword and a gun as his weapon. His red eyes had a strange glint to them, but the way he licked his was annoying to everyone present. This situation is as bad as it gets, Akeno thought as she prepared to escape. They couldn't win in this kind of situation. This man is trash, but anyone who betrays their comrades is worse than trash. To willingly try and kill a comrade, you are the lowest of the low, Naruto stated as he gave Rainier a hard glare. She looked at him with a raised eyebrow, before she laughed a little, shaking her shoulders. He was going to kill you, and you pity him? What a simple, naive, stupid human you are. Surrounded by enemies, about to die, and you worry about an enemy? You have to be either brave, or retarded. Rainier insulted Naruto, who had a vein pulsing on his forehead with how angry he was becoming. Naruto grit his teeth, while Akeno looked at Naruto, and then at Lucas. Seeing as the dying man was minuted from death, she didn't worry about him. Like she would worry anyway. The white-haired man in front grinned. This human is extremely stupid, but don't underestimate him. He is more frightening than any human I have ever met, Lucas warned Rainier, and she rolled her eyes, before she looked at the white-haired man. Freed, kill them and get this over with. Put those weapons to use. Rainier rolled her eyes at the warning a second time. This would be over quickly, gladly. I killed to stab devils, and the people who side with them. Freed called out, and he leveled his gun at Naruto and shot him. Naruto didn't grunt, he just took the bullet without so much as flinching. He stared up at Rainier as he did so, and she took a look into his determined blue eyes. The unwavering confidence that he had, and she flinched back a little. You can't stare into those eyes without flinching either, huh? Lucas thought as Naruto was shot a second and third time. What the fuck is this bastard made of? Rogue priest, I didn't know Ko had so many enemies in it. Akeno said as she looked towards Naruto, a magnet for danger it would seem. Just his presence made situations go to a worst-case scenario. I can respect killers. My first real enemy was a murderer. He killed over 100 people when he was a child, and killed hundreds more as an adult, I would guess. He didn't know mercy, but I liked him. He still had a heart, and could find love. He had honor as well, Naruto said as he was shot until Freed's gun was empty. Naruto spoke of Zabuza, a man who had still died doing good, a man who might have killed, but he killed with honor. He was a paid killer, but at the same time, Naruto couldn't help but like the man. He gave weaklings who didn't need to die a chance to escape. He didn't kill just to kill. Let's just cut him up, the muscular bald one said as he started to walk towards Naruto with his axe. Move! Akeno shouted to Naruto as the man came closer to Naruto. Hey Lucas, do you carry any weapons? Naruto asked the dying man, who simply smirked and shook his head. He raised his hand weakly, and created the smallest spear of light of his life. I was barely even a foot long. He tossed it towards Naruto, who caught it with his hand, even though his hand was burned from many separate issues. Give him hell, you bastard, Lucas said to Naruto. This alone surprised Akeno that Naruto's enemy was now helping them. Then again, what reason did Lucas have to be loyal to anyone? He was dying, he would be dead any minute now, and his comrades were going to speed that up soon. I don't hate killers, Naruto said as the axe got closer to his neck, the large man having swung it already. Ting! Naruto raised his hand and blocked it with the spear of light, and he looked up towards the man who swung the axe with a look that made the large man back off. Akeno and Lucas weren't able to see the look in Naruto's face. "Aya!" The man screamed in fear as he took a step back from Naruto. "But people who would kill the weak, the defenseless, their comrades, I can't stand them," Naruto said as he showed the rage in his eyes. Naruto slammed his forehead into the man's nose, and broke it. The man was sent back off of his feet, and Naruto brought his hand up, blocking Freed's sword with the light dagger. Naruto kicked Freed in the stomach and sent him back, before he stabbed the ponytailed man in the knee, forcing him to the ground. He raised his hand up and blocked the staff, before he stabbed the man in the hand, forcing the light dagger all the way through one hand, before forcefully moving it to stab the other hand. He didn't even have time to scream before Naruto slammed his elbow into the back of the man's neck. Naruto kicked the last man in the chin, sending him flying into a car window, before he turned his gaze towards Rainer. The light dagger faded when Lucas died, just as Freed was standing back up. "So the little shit can actually fight. That will just make killing him that much more fun," Freed shouted out, and Naruto ducked underneath a sword strike. He raised his hand up, and caught a stab from Freed, the sword going through his hand and stabbing into his shoulder. Naruto gripped Freed's hand, and pulled him close. "I'll beat you within an inch of your life," Naruto stated to the man, and he raised up his bandaged hand, also injured. He clenched it into a fist, before he smashed his fist into Freed's face. He gripped his hand tightly on Freed's so that he didn't go flying, before he punched him in the face a second time, and then a third, followed by a fourth, the fifth, and finally a sixth time before he allowed the battered and bruised Freed to fall to the ground. Naruto glared up at Rainer. She flinched back the second they made eye contact this time, finding fear in the fact that a near-dead human could destroy her own human forces even in his current state. "Don't make me laugh, you can barely stand. You might be stronger than a normal human, and too stubborn to die, but you don't have any sort of outstanding power other than that," Rainer reassured herself mostly, while Akeno looked towards Naruto. It would seem Rainer missed Naruto's fight with herself, and the fight with Lucas, otherwise she wouldn't be talking. Good, she was underestimating Naruto. When Akeno had done that, she had gotten her ass handed to her. Akeno was glad to see it on the other side this time. Anyway, she was almost done building up a little magic power herself, so she would be able to take on Rainer if worst came to worst. She could feel how weak Rainer was, which was good. Rainer was actually weaker than Lucas. The only reason she had been able to kill him was by surprise, it would seem, and him already being weakened. "I might barely be standing, but come down here and say something to my face," Naruto told her with his glare now more intense. Rainer felt another pulse of fear go through her body, and made a quick choice. Rainer flapped her wings and started to fly away. She did not like those eyes. "She chickened out?" Akeno asked in surprise, while Naruto felt the strength leave his body and fell to his knee. "I left you for 10 minutes and this is what you do?" Koneko asked. "Ah." Akeno let out a surprised noise when she noticed Koneko for the first time, who was crouched down on the ground nearby, holding a small shopping bag in her hand. She raised her hand and greeted Akeno. It would seem everyone had some explaining to do. Chapter end. Story start. "Oh, grow up," Koneko said as she tightened the bandages around Naruto's entire torso. Thanks to Akeno, his entire back had been pretty much destroyed, meaning that his entire chest needed bandages as well. Well, not so much Akeno, as Naruto defending Akeno from the explosion of her own impressive magical power. Naruto had also taken a lot of bullets to the body. Surprisingly, those had already healed, the bullets having been pushed out of his body by his healing factor. Light wounds were already fully healed, but Naruto still had a lot of major wounds that needed healing. The wounds through his gut, for instance. Akeno, with magic, had fixed Kaneko's broken window, and was watching Koneko bandage Naruto up. She had yet to go to Rias about Naruto, seeing as Naruto didn't seem like a threat to them. He could beat them, but he wasn't going to. If they didn't attack him, he wouldn't attack them unless they did something that made him very angry, like killing their own comrades or killing a defenseless opponent when they didn't have to. It would seem that the only way for them to really make an enemy of Naruto was for them to be some pretty crappy people. "I'm sorry about your back," Akeno told Naruto. "What about my face? You kind of hit me there with fire." Naruto deadpanned, seeing as his face was also bandaged up again. As were his arms, both of them now, and his legs. Most of his body was wrapped up with bandages thanks to the last fights he had been in with the stray rook, the stray peerage, Akeno, the fallen angel, and the rogue priests. Not to mention Sakura punching him into a different dimension, falling out of the sky and onto the ground, also getting punched by Koneko in the face. What was with his luck today? Akeno didn't really look sheepish. Well, if you weren't playing with Koneko-chan's panties, Akeno trailed off. Koneko started to tighten the bandages until Naruto had some trouble breathing, a displeased look on her face as she did so. "You were what?" Koneko asked him with narrowed eyes. "I cleaned your room to thank you for fixing me up. That was all I was doing. Don't say misleading things, pervy sadist," Naruto stated to Akeno, who seemed surprised by her new nickname. It was fitting, other than the perverted part in her opinion. It was completely acceptable to be a sadist to a person's enemies. Koneko loosened the bandages. It was hard to be mad at Naruto over this. He gave off a truth-telling aura that just made you believe in him. She also had to admit that he didn't seem to be the type to steal panties. Her room was mysteriously clean, other than the broken glass, given credit to his story. Her clean clothes were folded and put away, and her dirty clothes were in the hamper. His actions, while a little annoying that he touched her panties, were done with the best of intentions. It saved her the trouble of doing it herself as well. Bucho will want to talk with him. Koneko spoke to Akeno, who looked at Naruto for a moment, and nodded her head. A man who was sided with no sides, and the power to take on an entire straight peerage by himself. A peerage that had a powerful sacred gear that could create illusions. A man with a life force powerful enough that he could survive things that could kill even supernatural races, and keep fighting with no loss of confidence. He even had a body physically stronger than anything that even most enhanced devil could naturally have. He punched harder than a rook, moved faster than a knight. His reverses of chakra were ungodly huge, so huge Akeno couldn't even fathom the depths of them. He didn't even have a sacred gear. It was impossible to consider somebody like Naruto existing without anyone trying to recruit him to their side. Bucho? That the Rias girl you were talking about? Naruto asked them, and Akeno nodded her head. Rias Gremory, from the house of Gremory. This town belongs to her family now, though humans aren't aware of that. Akeno explained to Naruto, seeing as he didn't have any knowledge of the supernatural, other than what he had learned during and after his fights. His knowledge was woefully incomplete thanks to that. She will want to talk with you for sure. She might try to recruit. Akeno didn't get to finish. Naruto finished. Me into her peerage? What is that like? Naruto asked, seeing as he didn't know much about peerages in general. He knew the basics. Rooks were strong and tough, knights were speedy with agility, bishops seemed like ninjutsu specialists in how they related to his world, and queens had all of the abilities of rooks, knights, and bishops. Finally, it seemed like pawns were cannon fodder, or had some kind of hidden ability he had yet to see. He didn't actually know what a peerage was, other than a collection of people with supernatural abilities. He was interested in it. You interested in joining? Akeno asked, pleasantly surprised. Koneko as well. Even if I was, I don't think I should or could depending. Naruto said as he waved his hand. He was just interested in this new and fun thing. It wasn't like he was going anywhere anytime soon with his body's current condition. Akeno looked at Koneko, seeing as that wording was off. Well, devils had different ranks in society. There are low rank, middle rank, and high rank. Within those ranks are more ranks. Skipping that. When a devil is born into a high rank family, or is promoted to high rank, they are given a full 15-piece set of evil pieces. Akeno explained the basics of not only peerages, but how society for devils went as well. It would be best for Naruto to get the most simple understanding of their ways before he judged what they did. After all, evil pieces sounded pretty bad, and the look on Naruto's face showed that he was already conflicted about something. Evil is just a name, they aren't actually evil in nature, Koneko stated, having taken a guess at what Naruto's issue with everything was. He smiled and nodded his head. Okay, so it is like gathering a team, right? Naruto asked with a nod of his head. Servants, actually. When you join a peerage, you become the servant of the king of the peerage. Akeno informed Naruto, who shrugged his shoulders at that one. Okay, so he wasn't nearly as interested in it as before. Then again, it wasn't like Naruto hadn't heard of something similar. The Hyuga family turned their own family members into servants. This seemed a little better than that. So you are slaves then? Naruto asked with a look at both of the girls. Not slaves, servants. Koneko corrected Naruto, who raised an eyebrow at that. What she was describing sounded like slavery to him. When you are turned into a devil, you do start out as a low rank, but you can raise your ranking and title. There are exams to raise your rank, and if you become a high rank you are no longer considered a servant to your king. Akeno informed Naruto of the difference. Slaves had no choice in what their future was, unless their master released them. Servants could go independent, which was what a member of a peerage could do. They could go independent from their king to a certain extent. There were some rules, like how they would still have to serve their king during raiding games, but that was the only time they would have to work with their king. They no longer had to follow their orders outside of raiding games, meaning that they weren't slaves. The only ones who were slaves were the ones who never even tried to go independent. The ones who willingly allowed themselves to remain servants. Naruto thought with closed eyes. It was getting a little confusing for him. So you started out as a low-rank servant, but with enough work and effort, you could rank yourself up and get back your freedom. Hard work and effort being used to decide how you ranked in society. That actually sounded pretty cool to him. The fruits of a person's own hard work deciding how others viewed them was a pretty unique way of going about things. He appreciated hard work, and he never backed down from a challenge, so this sounded to him like a way to separate the hard workers from the people with no goals for themselves. Koneko looked at Naruto's face. There are also competitions where kings have their peerages fight each other for to entertain others and improve their standing, Koneko told Naruto. Oh. Naruto got it. To him, it sounded like raiding games were like the Chunin exams. They were a way to show off military power to others and improve their standing with their clients. Raiding games sounded like a way to show off as well, and show off their peerages fighting power to others and improve their standing in society. That was something he was used to, and it was nice to see that this world had something very similar to his world. To add a person to a peerage, a king uses an evil piece, and fuses it with a person, turning them into a reincarnated devil, Akeno said, and Naruto thought about that for a moment. Then it seemed that he might not even have the option here. With the Kyuubi inside of him, he might not be able to have anything fuse with him. The last time something tried to fuse with him, the Kyuubi rejected it and forced it out of his body. So even if he wanted to, if the Kyuubi decided to reject whatever was being fused to him, he wouldn't be able to transform anyway. That is, even if he wanted to. Sound interested? Koneko asked, seeing as she was pretty sure that Rias would want this guy in her peerage. Heck, Koneko wanted Naruto to join the peerage, seeing as he was somebody she already got along well with. They fought side by side, and he protected her even though she had been a stranger. He protected Akeno, a dear friend of hers, and was generally a genuinely nice person. A little, but not really. If I can't return home, I might consider it more. I bet I would be able to make high class in less than 6 months or something. Naruto spoke with confidence. Neither of them doubted that claim, having seen or felt his strength firsthand. So are there other ways to promote? Naruto asked them, and they looked at him after looking at each other. We are still low class, Koneko told him, and he blinked, before nodding. You can form a lot of contracts with humans. You can do great things like defeat powerful enemies, or you can prove yourself in raiding games. I think the minimum number of contracts needed to take the test is 100,000 or something. Akeno hummed at the end of that when she saw the look on Naruto's face. He had a dastardly grin on it, or rather, he had the grin of a person who had just gotten a wicked idea. He did realize that even if you did one contract every single day, all year long, it would take almost 300 years before you were given the chance to promote that way, right? Heck, even doing 10 requests a day would mean having to wait almost 30 years before being given the chance to promote that way. I could bet you I could do that in 10 days, Naruto muttered under his breath with a growing grin on his face. He had an amazing trick that could allow him to gain years of experience in a single day. Neither Koneko or Akeno believed that Naruto's words could be true. At this point, they were pretty sure that he was just full of himself on this one. There was no way that he could make 100,000 requests in 10 days or less. That was physically impossible. That would mean he would have to split himself into thousands, and have them doing a lot of requests. Naruto blinked. If he did this, then it might mean that he could find a way home. If he could get access to the high rank, then he might be able to find some way of getting home without relying on anyone else. Rich people, strong people, and the like always had secrets that allowed for some pretty weird things. If Naruto could get to a high enough rank, he knew that he could find something relating to different dimensions. It was a chance, but it was a chance that he was willing to take if it meant returning home. Neither Akeno nor Koneko what to make of Naruto's newfound determination in his eyes. You really think you can do it in 10 days? Koneko asked with a raised eyebrow, and Naruto nodded his head seriously. How many humans are on this planet? Naruto asked Akeno, who seemed like she would know the answer. Close to 7 billion of them. Why? Akeno asked, and Naruto started to think to himself. If he created 1,000 clones of himself and had them scatter across the globe, each of them doing 10 requests a day or 100 requests, then he could get 100,000 requests done in no time. After all, there were a ton of people on the planet. No doubt with his speed, he could track them down and get requests finished in no time at all. He could do this. I'll see if I'm able to join, Naruto told Akeno with a serious look in his eyes. This seemed like it was his best bet of finding a way home. If he became this Ria servant, and became a high-class devil, he would be able to find a way home. He was Naruto Uzumaki. So long as he never forgot his humanity, it didn't matter what race he was. He would never stop living by his nindo. He would do whatever it took to find a way back to his friends. Really? Akeno asked in surprise. From what she knew, he didn't seem like the type to go for this type of thing. She hadn't known him long, but he seemed like the type to keep his humanity no matter what. Then again, she didn't know him. He was unpredictable to her. He seemed to have his own reason for doing this, a reason that involved him getting to high rank as quickly as possible. Actually, now that she thought about it, if he did get to high rank as quick as he seemed to think he could get there, he would only be a servant of Rias for a very short amount of time, before going independent. What is your reason for this? Koneko thought as she looked at Naruto, not able to picture in her head what kind of reason that he would want this. It wasn't greed, he wasn't that type of guy. It wasn't lust, he seemed a little perverted. But he didn't seem lustful. It wasn't pride. What use did pride come in here? What reason could a selfless, modest guy like Naruto have for wanting to trade his humanity for? Don't worry guys, I'll find a way back to you as fast as I can. Naruto thought dead seriously as he looked at his bandaged up body. Naruto took a few calming breaths before he started to unwrap the bandages from his body. Now wasn't the time to heal slowly, by his standards. Kyuubi, I need a quick fix. Naruto closed his eyes so that the others wouldn't be able to see what his eyes looked like. The amount of that chakra he was using wouldn't affect his body that much, other than healing it and changing his eyes to red, and make his whisker marks a little thicker for a moment. His body started to steam and heal over, both on the inside and the outside, as he stripped the bandages off of him. Akeno and Koneko were astounded by the change from rapid healing to near instant healing as all of his wounds were fixing themselves. In seconds his battered and bruised body was as good as new, and Naruto released a long breath, allowing the chakra to go back into his body as he opened his now blue again eyes. He stood up. Okay. Let's go see this Rias person. Naruto shouted out with a glint in his eye. He had a plan. Get to high rank as quickly as possible, and begin searching for a supernatural way to cross dimensions. Koneko and Akeno shared a glance. This was new. Rias would be shocked for sure. This would be the very first time that somebody was actually coming to Rias to actually request to become a member of her peerage, even more somebody this strong already. It wasn't unheard of per se, but this was the first time somebody strong enough to decimate an entire peerage by himself was willingly joining the peerage of another, even more so somebody with no sacred gear, and without ever having talked to the king before then. Even when people joined peerages, it was either against their will, or the king convinced them into doing it through some method. Okay, then we aren't far from Kuroka Academy, and she should still be there. Akeno commented as she stood up as well. Rias would be pleasantly surprised by this turn of events, that much was for sure. First, get dressed, you are still naked. Koneko reminded Naruto, seeing as he was mostly naked, nothing more than boxers. Naruto looked down at himself, before he turned a little red out of embarrassment. Ehehehe, whoops thanks. Naruto said when Koneko gave him the bag she had gotten, which had clothing in it. With the clothes she had pretty much repaid her department in her mind. Now that he was fully healed, there wasn't anything else she could really do for him. Naruto opened the bag and pulled out black pants, stepping into them and pulling them up. He also pulled out a dark blue shirt, V-neck, and put it on over his torso. After that, he saw why she asked him his favorite color. She had gotten him a bright orange jacket, short-sleeved, that had a simple design to it, though Naruto didn't bother zipping it up. Looks good though, I like it better without the clothes. Akeno teased Naruto as she slid a finger over his chest. He grinned. Thanks, I guess, kind of weird. Naruto said, with her teasing/flirting going right over his head. Akeno was flat out confused, unsure of what just happened when Naruto didn't catch her teasing and walked out of the room. That was weird. He is an idiot. It is as frustrating as it is endearing. Koneko warned Akeno of the traits she had noticed. In battle, he was the first person you turned to for plans, but outside of battle, he was not nearly as smart. He was pretty oblivious to things. He was a special kind of stupid, but not the bad kind. Kuroka Academy, location, occult research club room. So this boy potential has a pretty good sacred gear. There seems to be a fallen angel targeting him. Rias Gremory looked over what she had written down and seen for herself. She was a pretty tall girl, over 5 feet 8 inches in height, with a thin waist. Her long red hair cascaded down her body, and her bright blue eyes shined behind the glasses she was using to help concentrate. She didn't need them, but they made her feel smarter. She had soft white skin, and a gentle face, though not without its own sharpness. Her chest was slightly smaller than Akeno's, but she did not lose in how beautiful she was. She wore the same uniform as Koneko, at the moment, and was looking through an entire stack of papers. Some were papers on rating game results, some were papers about sacred gears in general, letters from her family, and notes she made about notable students. Her brother had sent her a letter saying that there might be a fallen angel group in the city, and she looked into it herself using her familiar. As it turned out, he was right. There was a fallen angel group in the city. A group that came right from Gregory, the central fallen angel organization it would seem. She didn't know if they were acting on the orders of Azazel, or were acting of their own accord though, which made it harder for her to decide what to do in this case. The boy's grades in P are below average, his grades in his other subjects are also subpar, his personality leaves much to be desired, and he was caught peeking today into the Kendo Club's changing room. What kind of sacred gear could he have? Rias wondered out loud as she looked at the picture. It was an average boy, literally the average Japanese man for the most part in appearance. Brown hair, hazel eyes, slightly tan skin for the most part, and he wasn't all that tall either. He had little in the way of muscle tone, but something about him seemed to warrant the fallen after him for some reason. She needed, to know why he was being targeted. She looked towards her knight, who was sitting and reading a book nearby. It had been a while since he and she talked. Yodokiba, a boy around her height with bright blonde hair, and blue eyes, with extremely pale skin. He was kind of on the skinny side, but he was toned thanks to his training. He wore the male version of her own uniform, and the only flaw on his skin was a single mole underneath his eye. He was gentle, a little too gentle most of the time. He didn't really chase women, and avoided them when he could help it. She wondered if he was gay. Nothing wrong for that, considering Devil Society was pretty easy going about same-sex love for the most part. As a being who encouraged lust in general, she saw no reason to shun him for being. I'm not gay, Yuto said to her, having noticed her questioning look. I wasn't thinking that. Rias spoke coolly to him, denying what she had been thinking in a very convincing lie. Yuto raised the book he was reading sideways, and a page folded out. Oh, was he reading porn? Such a nice sword. I'm not gay, I'm reading a book with pictures of swords, Yuto said when he showed her the sword on the page. He held his hand out, and a sword appeared in his hand that was an exact copy of the one on the page. Seeing as it was a simple sword from the Middle Ages, it was something he could replicate with his own sacred gear with ease. Rias pouted a little, and took off her glasses. She had trouble finding stuff to tease him about, she really did. He was such a cute little servant, just like a little brother. He often spoke in ways that made him seem homosexual, often enough to make everyone question what he liked his partner to have in their pants. Okay, then there's this Rias didn't get to finish. As a knight, I don't have time for dating Bucho. Time that could be spent dating, could be spent sharpening my skills, Yuto informed her as he made the sword in his hand vanish, and started to look through the book again. She puffed her cheeks out, before she let out the breath and smiled. He was not exactly easy to talk to. Are you sure? You're strong and handsome. I bet you could make some time for a little romance. Rias tried to convince him to get a life outside of training. Train was all he did anymore when he had free time. I'm very sure, Bucho, Yuto said pleasantly, and she sighed. Oh well, if he didn't want to date, she wouldn't push him into it. The day would one day come that he would find a pretty girl, or handsome guy, she was damn sure he was gay, and start his own romance. The door was kicked open. Hey devil lady, you and me are going to talk. I've got something to say to you, Naruto shouted as he waltzed in the room, and Rias looked outright shocked already. What the fuck? I'll help you, Bucho, Yuto shouted as he summoned 2 swords and rushed towards Naruto. Naruto, blinking in surprise when he saw a person attacking him, grinned when he figured out what was going on. They wanted to test him. Fine by him. Naruto kicked Yuto in the face and sent him flying out the window, before he himself jumped out the window. He grabbed one of the swords that Yuto had let go of, and started to fall down towards Yuto faster than Yuto was falling. They clashed blades in midair, before Naruto gave Yuto a palm thrust to the chest, sending him crashing into the ground. The dust cloud kicked up, blocking Naruto's vision. Yuto rushed out of the cloud with the scuffs on his clothes with a flaming sword in his hand, and a sword of ice in the other. Naruto channeled wind chakra through the blade just in case, not too sharp, just sharp enough to clash with the elemental blades. Naruto blocked nearly 20 strikes in under 2 seconds while retreating backwards, a grin on his face at this friendly fight. The guy was good, he was going for kill shots, meaning he knew not to underestimate his opponent. Naruto still blocked the shots, and when Yuto pulled his arm back for a big slash, Naruto rushed forward. He pushed his elbow against the sword handle, stopping Yuto from swinging one of the swords, before Naruto crossed his fingers and made a clone next to him. Huh! Yuto called out in shock when a clone blocked his sword strike with the clone's sword, and Naruto kicked Yuto in the ribs rather lightly, sending him into the air. Rias flew out of the window and landed on the ground. Naruto ducked underneath a blast of black and red energy that destroyed a tree, and also destroyed 2 more trees, before stopping at the 4th tree. Naruto grinned when he saw that it was 2-on-2 until a bruised Yuto cut his clone across the chest, turning him back into smoke. Naruto tossed the sword up into the air and knocked the swords out of Yuto's hands, before punching him right in the chin. Yuto soared through the air and crashing through the school building, no longer visible. Naruto was hit in the center of the chest by a similar ball of black and red energy, pushing him back and destroying the chest of his clothes. Naruto had a burn mark on his chest, and he grinned at being pushed back. So he can handle the explosive destructive power of the power of destruction with minor wounds? Rias thought to herself with some surprise at his durability. The power of destruction was no joke. It was a type of magic that only some could use. It was a magic that granted explosive destructive power that could destroy a lot of things with ease. That being said, it wasn't a perfect power. Some things were just too durable for the power of destruction to really hurt that much. The attacker seemed to have that level of durability, and more as he rushed towards her at a speed she couldn't dodge. He placed his fist against her forehead with a grin on his face. I win, man, you devil sure know how to test a guy. Akeno must have told you I was coming. You and that blonde dude didn't waste a moment seeing how strong I was, Naruto said, and Rias' expression changed from horrified that he had gotten close enough to put a fist to her face to shocked at his wording. What? Rias asked, stupefied as she looked at Koneko and Akeno flying down, Koneko holding onto a damaged Yuto. What? She stared back at a grinning Naruto, not really knowing what to make of the entire situation. This guy rushes into her clubroom, beats up her knight, takes the power of destruction without flinching, and then she learns that he knows both Akeno and Koneko apparently. Not only that, but he thought them attacking him was some kind of test meant to see how strong he was. What? Sorry Bucho, he is kind of stupid, Koneko said as she landed close by. Hey. Okay, I deserve that, sorry sword guy. You okay there? Naruto asked the hurt Yuto, who was just as confused as Rias. What is going on? Yuto was still pretty dazed, unable to move his body on his own after having his brain shaken by Naruto's punch to the chin. He didn't know what the hell was happening, but he was pretty sure of one thing. His knight instincts had gotten him an ass kicking. He saw a threat to Rias, and attacked without actually checking to see if the threat was actually a threat. Akeno! Can you explain what is going on? Rias shouted towards the person who seemed to know what was going on. Well, this is Naruto Uzumaki and he is apparently a ninja and wants to join your peerage. Akeno said pretty much everything that applied to the situation. She didn't know that Naruto would burst through the door like he did. Then again, he seemed like the flashy kind of guy that would make a big show of showing up unannounced like that. It was endearing. Rias stared at Naruto for a moment, The fact his wounded chest was already healing from the damage he had taken was something she was also surprised over. She looked at his body, and she noticed that his muscle and muscle tone was something that took years of harsh training and life-threatening situations to obtain. Not an ounce of fat on him anywhere, and she could sense the storm of ungodly energy inside of him. Eh? Rias asked as she pointed at Naruto. She did not plan for this happening today. This was the first time anyone had come to her requesting to become a member of her peerage. She went to Yuto and found him mostly dead. She was given Koneko was a present. She went to Akeno and convinced her. She found Gasper dead on the ground, and now this was happening. Naruto Uzumaki, ninja of Konohagakure. So come on, Rias, you gonna try and add me to your peerage or what? Naruto asked with his grin still in place. Rias raised a hand, as if to stop the situation. I'm sorry, but why? Rias asked. Seeing as this guy was strong, she didn't know why he would want to join her peerage. He was strong enough to beat her without a problem, so why would he even dream of submitting himself to her? What motive could he have for this? Was he an idiot? I like Koneko-chan and I can somewhat respect pervy sadist even though she is a sadistic masochistic pervert, Naruto stated. And Akeno looked away from Naruto innocently. Rias simply sent a look towards her, wondering where the hell she had been when all of this had happened. What? Masochist? She was pretty sure Akeno was a pure sadist. Shots fired, Yuto thought. Anyway, this seems like a good thing for me to do right about now. So what do you say, want to make a peerage member of me? Naruto asked her, and he held his hand out to her. She looked at it with the strangest look. This was surreal to her. Usually this would be the other way around, she would be asking him to join her, or flat out reincarnation his dead body. This was the first time somebody came to her, flat out telling her they wanted to become part of her peerage. He didn't even know about the existence of devils before today, by the way. He defeated a group of rogue priests a few hours ago and defeated an entire peerage's worth of stray devils a few hours before that. He also defeated me. Akeno let Rias know of what Naruto had spent the last few hours doing. Rias looked at Akeno with a dull expression for a moment, before she looked back at Naruto. She had no clue what was going on. Even with all of the explanation, she didn't know what to make of the situation. Then again, strong peerage member that both Koneko and Akeno approved of. She trusted their judgment, so if they approved of him she would approve of him. He seemed like a nice guy, so why not add him to her little group? Sure, Rias said as she grabbed Naruto's hand, and he jumped back into the school building, into the hole in the wall and back into the clubroom. Everyone flew up after him, to find him sitting on the couch and waiting. Rias landed nearby a chess set, incomplete with a few pieces missing, and looked over them. Inside of Naruto. Hey Kyubi, this is our only lead to go back home. You better not mess with this, Naruto shouted to a large orange fox, easily the size of a small mountain at the moment, who had his eyes closed. The fox had a human-like torso with hands like a human, but all fur-covered. He also had long huge tails. A single red eye opened up. He looked at Naruto for a moment. I doubt she is strong enough to turn you into a devil. The Kyubi spoke to Naruto, having already sensed the vast difference in power and potential. Naruto grinned. Don't worry, I have a plan, but I will need your help, Naruto stated as he closed his eyes again. Outside of Naruto. Okay, it works like this. A queen is worth 9 pawns, the rook is worth 5, and the knight and bishop are worth 3. What do you want to be, other than the queen? Rias asked as she laid the pieces out in front of Naruto. If the piece matches you, it will be much easier to turn you. Rias also pointed out that little fact. If you had the traits of a rook, then it would take much less cost for the rook to work on you. If you had the traits of the bishop, much the same. Naruto didn't even give it a thought. He took the pawn off of the table and gave it to Rias. I hate shortcuts to power. I don't want to be given power, so make me a pawn, Naruto told Rias, and she started to grab multiple pawns. It might take all of my pawns then. Rias muttered to herself. Don't worry, it should only take one, Naruto told her with a smile. After all, if the Kyubi could reject things fusing with him, by that same logic, he could also make things fuse with Naruto easier than before. Naruto could also try and force the piece to fuse with him easier, that way it would cost less. With his senjutsu training, it should be easier to accept the piece into him. As a Jinchuriki, he was also used to foreign power going into his body. Rias raised an eyebrow. I'm pretty sure you are worth more than 1 pawn, Rias stated, seeing as he defeated an entire peerage if Akeno was to be believed. That wasn't the power of a single pawn, that was the power of at least a queen. She might not even have enough to turn him. That would be embarrassing, to not be strong enough to turn him. Naruto just grinned. A red magically circle appeared underneath them, and Rias started to chant underneath her breath. She was sure this wasn't going to work, very sure of that actually, so sure that she wasn't even going to be. What? What? Everyone was surprised when all it took was a single pawn that sank into Naruto's chest to change him. Everyone looked at Naruto. His body didn't even try to resist the change. Was he such an open and accepting person that he could accept a single pawn turning him, even though it wasn't strong enough to do the job? What? I'm not exactly complicated. I'm also not fighting the change, I'm actually pretty open to it. It isn't like I'm putting up a fight against turning into a devil. I also have a little help on the inside, Naruto said with a pat on his stomach. It would seem he was right. If the QB could reject a fusion, he could also make it so much easier to accept a fusion as well. The QB wanted to go home as well, it would seem. For whatever reason the QB had, it wanted to return to their own dimension if he was willing to do what Naruto asked. Welcome to my peerage? Rias said unsurely. Again, this wasn't exactly something she had experience with. Thanks Rias-chan, so, how about getting me started on doing some requests? Naruto asked her, and she blinked with a raised eyebrow. She stared at Akeno. He thinks he can do 100,000 requests in under 10 days. Akeno informed Rias, who blinked again. Today was full of surprises. You are a strange person, Naruto Uzumaki-san. Do you mind if I just call you Naruto, or Naruto-kun? Rias asked, unsure of how to continue this. After all, this was the weirdest day of her life. Seriously, she just could not get a read on this guy. I don't mind at all, Rias-chan. So, how do I exactly go about fulfilling requests? Naruto asked her. He was impatient. He wanted to get 100,000 requests done as quickly as possible. That way he could rise through the ranks, and start trying to find a way back to his home dimension. The sooner the better. You give people these summoning circles, and fulfill their request when they summon you. I'll mark you so you can use the Gremory circle, Rias said as she gave him a piece of paper, and placed a finger to his palm, a small symbol glowing before vanishing under it. She also gave Naruto another paper that had places for people to sign things. When you complete a request, have them sign here and fill out how you did, maybe give you some kind of reward. Anything will do for a reward, really depending on how hard the request is. Rias informed Naruto, who nodded his head. Yuto, Koneko, and Akeno had never seen Rias looking so confused. So can I take 100,000 of these papers? Naruto asked her, and she nodded and pointed towards the 5 boxes filled to the brim with papers. Each box contained around 20,000 of the circles. She had them on hand, seeing as that she supplied them to her peerage whenever they needed to go and give out circles to do requests. Naruto walked over to the boxes and started to pick them up, before he started to walk out of the room with a large smile on his face. Rias just looked at her peerage. He seems nice. Rias said to them. He's strong. Yuto admit. He's stupid, but funny. Koneko added on to that as well. She liked the guy. He was just a likable person. I like him. Akeno just flat out admitted as well. He was strong, funny, kind, and oh so deliciously innocent. She wanted to take that innocence of his, she really did. If she could get past his thick skull, that is. Chapter end. Story start. Good work, QB. Naruto thought to himself, his clones scattered across the globe getting a ton of requests done for him in record time. He had sent clones to different countries, with different people and different types of requests that needed to be filled. If he targeted people who seemed like they would need help the most, he figured he would be able to max out his requests in no time. Of course, that wasn't why he was thanking the QB. Just like how the QB could reject a fusion, the fox within him had been able to manipulate the fusion to suit his own, and Naruto's, needs. Naruto's right arm. The real reason why it had only taken a single pawn to turn Naruto was not because he was open to the idea, or accepting of it. He was both of those things, but that wasn't the reason. In all honesty, it should and would have taken every single one of her pawns to fully turn Naruto. Pushing a fusion like that into your right arm, and halting the transformation was child's play for a being of ultimate power like me. The QB bragged to Naruto, noting that Naruto was talking to the tailed beast a little more than he usually did. It bugged the QB for some reason, but at the same time, he figured that it was normal seeing as Naruto had a need for something he had been able to do. Naruto needed him to forcefully accept the fusion. The QB stared at Naruto's mental body in his mindscape, the part of his mind that always reminded in front of him. It was purely a mental representation of Naruto, but it was always there, even if Naruto wasn't aware of it until he used it to communicate with him. Way to sound full of yourself, Naruto deadpanned, with the QB going silent after that. Badass moment ruined. Naruto looked at his right arm with a grin on his face. Either way, he was happy with the results of the transformation process. The QB had pushed the entire transformation into Naruto's right arm, and seeing that Ria's single pawn would not have been strong enough to turn him otherwise, this was the ideal situation. The only part of Naruto's body that had been transformed had been his right arm. Of course, if Rias used more pieces on him, she could transform more of his body, but at the moment everything but his right arm was still very much human, so now he just had to kill time while his clones did their jobs. Getting back those memories was going to suck. Then again, he had to stay in a single spot so that all of the clones would know where to come back to with their signed papers. Naruto's eyes changed colors, turning yellow with bar pupils as orange rings appeared over his eyes. What? With Naruto's clone, number 134, some requests were easier, and some were downright annoying. The request that Naruto was being asked to do was a simple one, but at the same time it was annoying. Find a legendary beast that was hiding inside of the lake that he was standing over. He was walking on top of the water, looking into the depths for the creature that he was fighting. Naruto had a grin on his face as he did so, because he knew that it wasn't able to hide anymore now that he had upped the advantage. Sharp beam of water cut out of the water and into the air, with Naruto dodging it at the last second, as large yellow eyes glowed under the surface. Naruto jumped out of the way as an explosion of water pushed into the sky, and the glowing eyes appeared behind the water. A blast of water came from the water towards him, and he punched it, shattering the beam and sending water all around. He grinned and got ready to continue the fight that had been doing on for a few, close to 10 minutes now. Capture the Loch Ness Monster. Here Nessie, Naruto said with a grin on his face, and he showed that he himself was holding onto a lot of rope. This was going to be fun. Nessie was a large dragon, with a very long neck and green scales. Most of its body was still in the water, and it was glaring at Naruto. Naruto pointed up into the air. Another Naruto, a clone of a clone, also in Sage mode, slammed his foot on top of Nessie's head, knocking the dragon out with a single hit. The creature floated on top of the water, and Naruto tossed the clone the rope as they started to tie up the beast. The clone popped with a salute as Naruto, the clone who made the clone, started to pull Nessie out of the water with ease. Naruto came onto the shore, and he was met with a sailor who was holding onto a piece of paper, shocked by what he was seeing. Thank you, lad. Here, signed. I guess I shan't be needing the boat. It is yours. Yes, stuff is loaded onto it, the man said, seeing as he only got the boat to search for Nessie in the first place. There was no need for him to keep it, and since this was a huge job he was asking, he was going to give Naruto a huge reward. Naruto grabbed the paper. Sweet, this makes 100 requests I have fulfilled, Naruto said as he folded up the paper and put it into his pocket. With his 100 requests complete, he could take his rewards to the original Naruto, and be finished with this. He walked over to the edge of the boat, and grabbed it, before he lifted it above his head as well, and started to run in the direction of the original. He had 100 rewards, and a 100 signed satisfaction papers, and signatures on the request paper, to turn in anyway. He wondered how the other clones were doing? With clone number 376, why did that other clone make a clone to enter Sage mode? Naruto asked as he dropped his Sage mode. That request could have easily been finished without Sage mode after all. Heck, the only reason that in his last few fights that he didn't use Sage mode was simply because he didn't have enough time to really enter it without being super obvious about it. If he created a clone and sent it away in the middle of combat, the clone would become a target for attack. That, and he had been iffy about using Sage mode when he could sense something different about nature in this dimension. Well, for a search and capture mission, Sage mode was a great boon, which was why the clone had used it. On the bright side, Naruto wasn't worried about the hate in the air affecting him too much. Compared to some of the things he had dealt with, the amount of hate in nature was nothing of concern to him. He had felt and accepted hate much more powerful than what nature had thrown at him. Not to mention he was pretty clear-hearted, so it wasn't like the hate had anything to latch onto either, so it was easy for Naruto to brush off. Oh well, nothing to worry about it would seem. He looked at his requests. His own rewards were already sealed up in a scroll, and he only had 3 more signatures to get before he could return back to the original as well. Naruto looked towards his right. In Sage mode, he had felt something that was darker, heading in his direction. Naruto tilted his head in confusion, because even with Sage mode it had felt like the thing he had sensed had been able to partially hide its own form from him. He had been able to sense it, but it was like the thing he had sensed was a senjutsu user as well. Of course, it was miles away from him, not like Naruto really worried about it all that much. Heck, Naruto would say that it would be a few hours before whatever was coming would be with him. Naruto jumped into the air when the ground underneath him exploded with blue fire. Never mind. Naya, ha ha. I thought I sensed somebody using senjutsu Nyan. Naruto looked, and his eyes went flat when he saw a woman. Like he hadn't been attacked by enough of those already in the last few days. Of course, it made matters worse that she was attractive. She obviously knew what senjutsu was, and if she could sense it, then she herself was a senjutsu user. Only a sage could sense a sage. How did you find me? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. The woman was short, inches shorter than he was, with long black hair tied up in hoops. She had a pale skin color, with a very thin body at the waist, but with larger hips and a very large chest was that nearly as large as Ria's chest. She had 2 black cat ears on top of her head, and her shoulders were exposed, as were half of her breasts with the revealing black and red kimono that she had. She wore no pants, shoes, or even socks, with her legs fully revealed as were the twin tails coming out of her hind area. She wore a yellow obi, with bells on it. She looked at him like he was stupid. You came to me. I was minding my own business, a few miles away, napping on a rock and enjoying some sunbathing. Then, I sensed a massive chakra using senjutsu in such a weird way. Nyan, the woman stated as she pointed at him in a way that showed that it was Naruto's fault that she had even noticed him. She had wanted to avoid him, originally, when she sensed just how massive his chakra was. She was attracted to power. She found it sexy as fuck for a male to have a dominating aura and extreme potential for battle. It was fucking sexy. So we don't have to fight. Good, that makes things easier, Naruto said with a sigh, before he jumped and dodged when the woman threw a blue fireball at him again. Naruto looked towards her with surprise for the surprise attack, and she rolled her eyes. Like she would come all this way just to talk. Like she couldn't smell how weird his scent was. The scent of his right arm was devil, but the rest of his body was all human. It was extremely strange, but that would mean that he would retain the breeding ability of a human. Humans being able to breed the best out of any of the humanoid species. Devils and fallen angels, 2 strong species, had low breeding rates, as did dragons and yokai for that matter. If he had just been a senjutsu user, she would have allowed him to slide without going after him. He was a human senjutsu user with so much chakra that she literally felt herself drowning when she tried to read the flow of his life force. I never said that. I was having a nice day, Nyan, and then you showed up. Also, how many of you are there, Nyan? She asked as she looked around. She could sense like hundreds of senjutsu-using versions of the boy in front of her scattered around the world. It was hard for her not to sense the only chakra-using human, and the person who was generation the most senjutsu chakra that she had ever felt. It was like he split himself into many copies of himself. Super weird, even by her standards. Damn it, and I didn't want to fight you. I'm not even the original. Naruto complained under his breath. The great thing about large cat ears on top of a head. Super hearing. Oh, so some sort of cloning ability, meaning that this one isn't the real one. I do see flow of chakra coming from this clone and going back to the original, no doubt. If I follow it, I find the original Nyan. She thought as she turned around and started to walk away. A clone wouldn't do, she would have to go and find the original if she wanted to see how strong he was. She stopped for a moment, as a sly grin came over her face. My name is Kuroka Nyan. Curiosity killed the cat, but I have to ask, does your original control you? Kuroka asked with a smile showing that she had a plan. If the original controlled the clones, then she could send a message that she was coming. She didn't want to fight him weakened, she wanted to fight him to see truly how powerful he was. There was no point to fighting him to see if he was breeding material if he was weakened. She was strong children, meaning only a strong father would do. She didn't deal with weak little shits. If I pop, he gets the memories. Naruto confirmed for her, and she summoned a ball of fire in her hand. Enough reason for her to attack the clone. Good enough for me, this is for ruining my nap, Nyan. Kuroka stated as she threw the fireball towards the clone. The clone drew a kunai, found a village that sold weapons, and sliced the fireball in half. Kuroka blinked for a moment at how the clone reacted to her attack the second that she launched it. He spun the kunai in his hand, and held it in a reverse grip, now fully on guard for her next attack. She was not on guard for his attack. He crossed his fingers and a clone popped into existence in front of himself, before the clones started to run at her. Both of them with weapons drawn. She jumped up into the air and summoned 3 larger balls of fire, pointing at Naruto and throwing them down towards him. The clones jumped off of each other, dodging in midair. I thought devils could fly, Nyan? Kuroka questioned when her own wings came out and she floated in the air. I'm not a full devil, and I doubt my arm comes with the ability to fly. I got no benefits from being a devil. Naruto noted for her, as he created a clone and jumped higher into the air. He threw the kunai at her, and it stabbed the joint of her wing. Ah! Fuck, Nyan! She fell to the ground and yanked the kunai out of her lower back. She threw it on the ground, and she looked around for the why did the kunai had its own life force. Poof! The kunai transformed into a clone and punched her right in the jaw hard enough to send her flying back up into the air. She hadn't even noticed the one clone transform into a kunai. It had managed. No, she could see the other clone. The clone must have made a second clone between itself and the first clone, and transformed it before she could see it. She looked up when she saw a shadow. Eat this! Naruto called out as he slammed his foot into her face, slamming her back down into the ground, face first. She formed a crater around her body, and stopped moving as she tried to recover from the headwind. What the fuck? How is he ignoring my sexy body and attacking me like he doesn't notice half of my cleavage is hanging out? He literally just got an eye full of it. Kuroka thought as she got onto her hands and knees, before she fully stood up. Her nose was gushing blood over her lower face, but she wiped it with her black sleeve. Okay, he hit hard, very hard. If she hadn't used senjutsu to control her life force, and increase her power, durability, and speed, she would have been knocked out by that attack. Thankfully, using senjutsu, she had been able to control Tuki to make herself stronger at the last second before the attack landed. She could not take even a clone lightly. Poof! She was surrounded by a small army of clones moments later, numbering in the dozens. She looked around, and tried to think of where she had gone wrong with this. She got herself ready for battle. 3 clones came from her left, and she swiped her arm, clawing them in the faces hard enough to pop them. The smoke clouded her vision, but not her sensing ability, and she could sense another clone behind the smoke. She jumped up into the air, and the 2 clones on either side of her slammed into each other, popping. 4 clones jumped up at her, and she grabbed the wrists of 2 of them, and pulled them to block the punches of the other clones. The clones she had popped, before she kicked the clones that she blocked, before spinning and landing back on the ground. You aren't the only master of cloning, Nyan! Kuroka shouted out as several of herself appeared out of thin air, and she herself vanished. She had a smirk on when she saw the confused clones. She clone of hers would fade out a few, and appear randomly in other locations, appearing as if they were teleporting clones. She summoned fireballs, before she started to spin them into a wheel of blue flames. She looked towards the original clone, and she smirked to herself. She flung the wheel of flames at the clone. Her attack was currently as invisible as she herself was, so no way would he be able to dodge it. He dodged it. Damn, more invisible tricks? I am starting to hate invisible opponents, guys. These clones aren't teleporting, they are illusions. Original clone Naruto shouted to the remaining clones, and they all nodded their heads. Yeah, I thought something was up. Clone 2 said with a nod of his head. Holy shit, they are illusions. Clone 3 shouted with surprise. Retard. Of course they are illusions. Clone 4 shouted, smacking Clone 3 in the head. Clone 3 pouted at that, and Kuroka blinked and dropped the illusion, pointing at the clones with a questioning finger. Don't they pop when they get hit? Kuroka asked as she pointed at the clones, and Naruto shook his head. Clones pop when they take a certain amount of damage. Anyway, I think stop fighting. I swear, you clones get dumber all the time, Naruto said with an annoyed growl when he saw that half of his clones were gone thanks to them starting their own pit of violence. The clones had started beating up each other, popping a good number of themselves. Naruto palmed his face, before he yelped in shock. He leaned back and made an arch with his back when Kuroka threw fire at him, the fireball just barely missing him. Oh shoot, oh well, guess I'll try something else. Kuroka stated as she created a ball of blue energy, pure energy, in the palm of her hand. You want to compare the size of our balls then? Naruto asked as he held his hand up and gained a grin. In his hand, he formed a Rasengan, and the other clones started at him for a moment. Ha! Ball joke. Shut up, idiot, can't you see he just made a Rasengan without our help? Another clone shouted as he popped the clone that made the joke. Naruto palmed his face, before he blinked and blushed a little out of embarrassment. Well shit, he did make the Rasengan with a single hand. He didn't know he could do that. I'm a woman, I don't have balls, Nyan. Kuroka deadpanned. Seriously, was this guy an idiot or what? He seemed surprised by his own attack, and he seemed even more surprised by the fact that he had unknowingly made a ball joke. She was a dumb person, but even she had her moments when she saw somebody, and thought, is this person stupid? And could only stare. She threw her attack at him, and he slammed his Rasengan into it. Her attack didn't stand a chance against his attack. He smashed right through it, before she felt the clone put her into a headlock from behind. She blinked, and looked behind her. Shit! She forgot that she literally had over a dozen enemies to fight in the middle of her confusion at how stupid her opponent could be. Now it seemed like the stupidity was an act to get her to drop her guard, and he could take advantage of her. She swung her leg up backwards, and the clone's face scrunched up when her heel went into his groin. The clone popped, and all of the clones held there with a shiver. She enhanced her body to its limit with Tuki. If she pushed it any further she would be hurting herself when the clones rushed into actions. She crossed her arms and blocked a frontal kick, with it pushing her back. Her tails wrapped around the ankles of other clones behind her, and slammed them together. She spread her legs wide, and kicked two clones in the chest, damaging them enough to pop them. It would seem the clones had no self-preservation instinct, because none of them seemed to ever defend themselves against punches or kicks. The final two clones rushed her from the sides. The clones popped before she could hit them, and she blinked, before she yelped and moved away when two kunai nearly stabbed her shoulders. If that had hit her, she would have been done for. Her magical attacks required the use of her hands in order for her to actually create them. Without her arms, she would have a lot of trouble using her bigger attacks. Wait, he isn't using his senjutsu? Kuroka thought to herself when she noticed that her opponent had yet to activate his senjutsu to fight her. Here she was, enhancing herself with Tuki, and her opponent wasn't even using his full strength. Her eyes narrowed when she realized that she was being taken lightly. The clones were bickering with each other, not bothering to block or dodge her attacks, and they were extremely relaxed. She wasn't being taken seriously. She summoned a large fireball with a glare in her eyes. She multiplied it into 3 large fireballs, and pointed both of her hands at the main clone. She was going to go full out, and force him to pop in the most painful way possible. The clone crossed his arms, and the 3 attacks exploded on him. She narrowed her eyes as the flames died down near instantly, and she saw that the clone's clothing had been damaged, but the clone was barely even fazed by the attack. Damn, that hurt a lot, Naruto thought as he looked at his forearms, which had felt the full brunt of that. Since he blocked the attack, and blocked attacks don't really pop clones, he had been fine. The attack didn't bruise him, or draw blood, but he was scuffed up a little from the fireball's explosion. That had been a strong attack. He must have a powerful resistance to fire attacks. Kuroka thought to herself. That attack was nearly as strong as one of Sasuke's fireballs. Kuroka held her finger up, and started to make symbols appear in the air. Purple fog started to form and go towards Naruto. He blinked and looked at the fog, before looking towards Kuroka. My poison slowly kills all beings other than dragons and gods. You are going to suffer a slow Nyan? Kuroka had her face punched again when Naruto pushed through the poison. The poison faded away the second her concentration was broken, and Kuroka, covering her eye as she was pushed back, looked at the clone. Naruto was covering his mouth. If he didn't breath the poison in, then it wouldn't be able to affect him. It was kind of stupid of her to state that she was using poison, before he had breathed it in. Listen, lady, I don't want to hurt you if I don't have to. I still have requests I have to fulfill, Naruto said as he showed the paper with signatures that he had. Kuroka lunged at Naruto, and he blocked a punch. She blocked a punch from him, before blocking a kick as well, and throwing her own kick. He leaned back and dodged the kick, before he moved his foot onto the ground, and spun around to kick her in the jaw. She leaned back as well, and Naruto spun all the way around, before he swept her feet out from under her. He grabbed her ankle, and slammed her into the ground, getting a grunt out of her. This wasn't like the fight with the stray peerage where he needed to get the shit kicked out of him so that he could win the fight. This was a different fight where he had to show off his skills and not get hit and popped. She wrapped her legs around him, pulling herself up with her crotch in his face. She didn't wear panties. Time to pop you, Nyan! Kuroka called out, before Naruto leaned down and slammed her back into the dirt before she could hit his head. Her legs came unwrapped from his head. Naruto's cheeks were burning red. She took her chance to latch out at him, standing on her hands to do so. He grabbed her tail, and she fell to the ground when he did so. She smiled at Naruto nervously when she saw both of her tails were being gripped tightly by the clone. Naya, ha ha ha, I was just playing with you, Nyan, Kuroka said, seeing as her tails were part of her identity. She wouldn't want something to happen to them because she had pissed off the clone. Fuck that. She lashed out with her foot again and nearly kicked Naruto in the, and he jumped back. He pulled onto her tails and started to spin around. She yelped, before she was spun even faster in a circle. When she started to get dizzy from spinning, Naruto threw her across the clearing. He crossed his fingers and started to run towards her, 2 more clones going to his sides. This won't be lethal, but it is going to hurt, Naruto informed her, and she kicked up dirt with her foot. The clones got dirt in their eyes, jumping in front of Naruto, and he jumped over the clones and the dirt. Kuroka dodged a knee to the gut by rolling out of the way, and she got up and tried to uppercut Naruto. He caught her fist and pushed her back, before he kicked her in the gut. She coughed out blood when she was pushed into a tree, and snapped the tree in half with her body. She crashed into the ground, bounced, and crashed a second time before rolling and stopping when her back hit another tree, her body landing on her side. She gasped in pain, holding her gut with her hand, wincing. Don't you know it isn't polite my stomach to hit a lady? Oh, that hurt, Nyan, Kuroka rasped out as she held on to her aching stomach. You attacked me first. Seriously, lady, what the hell is wrong with you? Why am I being attacked by so many women lately? Naruto shouted out, and Kuroka looked at him deadpan. Yep, he was stupid. You aren't from around here, are you, Nyan? Devils and yokai women are attracted to auras of power. You have an aura of power, confidence, and your life force is prime cut material, Nyan. You are fine breeding material, or in some cases, a very fine meal to increase our power with. I want to see how strong you are because I might want your children, Nyan, Kuroka stated with a twitching eye. How hard was it to understand that they, supernatural women, had it so that they pretty much got wet off of a powerful man? She had already tried to get the White Dragon Emperor to give her children, and her denied her harshly for that matter. Yeah, she wasn't going to try and get him to fall in love with her again. That didn't work at all the first, second, third, or even 9th time that she had tried. Eh? Are you a retard? Why would you fall in love with somebody for their strength? I mean, just because the parent is awesome, doesn't mean the child will be, Naruto told her as he saw the biggest flaw in her logic. He had 2 awesome parents, and when he was a kid, he sucked and knew it. He only got where he was with sheer guts, determination, and working his ass off harder than those around him. He had never truly been in love, and even he knew that you got with a person because you loved them, not because they were strong. Eh? Kuroka asked, as she looked at Naruto in surprise. Was he stupid? Strength was damn near genetic when it came to things like life force and basic strengths, and even potential was partially genetic. The only time that wasn't the case was when the source of power wasn't truly genetic itself. Potential was genetic, but sometimes that potential was never realized because the child was too lazy, or it was a late-blooming potential. He had an aura of power, and his life force wasn't gained unnaturally, meaning that his potential was based in genetics. His children would have potential out the ass. Damn, why do I always find the stupid ones? Love isn't something that you can force. Naruto tried to reason with Kuroka, and she blinked, sitting on her ass and looking towards him. She tried to stand up, but she realized that she wasn't able to move her body all that well. That last hit had really hurt her, a lot, and it would be a while before she was fully recovered from it. I mean, I'm not even that good looking, Naruto said, and Kuroka snorted. Okay, he really was an idiot. Toned-ass body that was perfectly sculpted, bright blue eyes with an amazing shape to them, a rugged face, but with a hint of feminine charm. He must have his mother's face and eyes. He had bright blonde hair, spiked up wildly to attract the girls who liked tough guys. He had peach skin, a little tan showing an active life, a perfect abs she wanted to eat off of. If he didn't think he was handsome, he was either modest, or he was stupid. You are different than other good-looking guys. You can't really tell a lie that well, can you, Nyan? So, mind getting me pregnant, Nyan? Kuroka asked, and Naruto palmed his face. Don't worry, I will take responsibility for taking your V-card, and marry you, Nyan, Kuroka said with a wink. Naruto snapped. I'm not a virgin, damn it. Naruto shouted at her, surprising Kuroka at that. Naruto turned red and turned his head away from her. I mean, I've had sex before, Naruto repeated himself with his cheeks still stained red. Naruto never broke a promise, never. When he promised he would do something, he did it. He remembered when he made a promise with a girl named Cheyenne, a promise to pass on her powers to the next generation. He made that promise without thinking too much of it. So, when he learned what his promise really meant, he and Cheyenne did the dirty with each other. They had sex in multiple positions, until she had been good and pregnant. Naruto grumbled to himself. He would have loved to become part of his children's life, but he had never had the time to go and visit, and Cheyenne couldn't leave her country either. Neither of them could leave their countries, and Cheyenne wasn't allowed to get married anyway. She had told him that he had no responsibility towards her or the child, but it still weighed heavy on his heart to know that he had a child, but not be able to do anything for her. Really? Kuroka asked in surprise, not even adding Nyan to it when she did. I spent 3 years training with a pervy sage. We traveled to like 100 brothels. Why does everyone think I'm a virgin? Heck, I knew more about a woman's body when I was a kid than most men do ever. Anyway, we got off track. You shouldn't. Naruto was cut off when Kuroka snorted. Okay, that settled it. I like you. You are kind of stupid, but funny. You've impressed me for sure with that strength of yours. I'm making you mine, and you don't have a choice in the matter now. Pick me up and take me to the original. You broke my spine and I can't walk. Nyan. Kuroka lied through her teeth. Her legs were hurt, and she couldn't walk, but she would be able to fully use her legs again in a few days, a few long days. She just wanted to guilt trip him into taking her to the original. He was stupid, so she could predict what he would do. Oh shit. I didn't mean to paralyze you. I just wanted to beat you up a little. I'll take you to the real me, and we will get you fixed up, Naruto shouted out with a panic as he rushed towards her and looked her over. She was certainly beat up, that much was for sure, so he picked her up and carried her on his back, putting a grin on her face. Oh, this was so easy. With clone number 679, and done. Okay, looks like that about does. I feel something just went wrong for real me, not my problem. I'm just a clone. I'll die when I'm done with this. Oh, that sucks. Naruto realized his own situation in life. Fuck that. When he was done with his requests, he was going to have some fun before he popped. He wanted to be rewarded for his hard work. Chapter end. What if Naruto is the brother of Akeno in high school DxD? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.